Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto loses his memory and ends up in Kiri part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. No trouble so far? A man wearing the Hittite of Kiri asked an elderly but able-bodied fisherman. No, sir. The fisherman answered as he tried tying his boat to the dock. But he kept having trouble. It was as if his fingers weren't willing to fully cooperate with him. He knew he was getting old, but he loved his livelihood and didn't see any reason why he should stop just yet. Nothing dangerous I've seen in these seas lately. See anything on the shore that appeared out of place? A Kiri kunoichi asked too. Didn't look. When I'm out in my boat, all I notice is the water around me. Got no time to be paying attention to what's going on land. Thank you. Let's hope things stay this calm. The fisherman lightly laughed. Nothing stays calm in the sea for long. It's always full of surprises even you ninja can never see coming. The two shinobi thanked him for his time again, waved, and walked off to ask another if there were any disturbances. This was a routine requirement for the land of water. Ninja needed to check out the well-being and potential danger of the docks. Sure, most people who worked there knew what to handle, but that was when some animal, or the sea itself, was the problem. The shinobi had to ensure no rogue bandits or foreign enemies were trying to damage the only way to connect land of water had to the mainland. And today looked like an uneventful day, which was both a good thing and a bad thing to a shinobi. The two currently on the job was a man named Janza Jinochi and a woman named Midorigami Kasumi. Jinochi had short black hair, brown eyes, a scar by his left ear from a past fight against the Kusanin, and dressed a lot like Momochi Zabuza did, but wore just beige and olive colors. On his back he wore a dark red backpack along with a battle axe on top for easy reach, not the best ninja weapon but one few had experience countering. Kasumi had long brown hair with a white streak starting behind each ear reaching the end, hazel eyes, a dark blue battle kimono with a green leaf pattern scattered over it, and a regular ninjutsu at her hip. I'm sure looking forward to going home, Jinochi stated just to get conversation started. Kasumi nodded. Me too, cause then we can try out chapter 24 of Ika Ika Tactics. Right, Ju-chan? I thought we were saving that for our honeymoon koishi. What if I don't want to wait? Kasumi added lecherously just to toy with him. You can't wait 6 weeks? Jinochi asked rhetorically. He had mixed feelings about his fiancée's new erotic behavior, which all started when she gave in to her friend's pestering and actually read one of the famous dirty books. Since then it was like her hormones were unleashed and rapid, but her morals were strong enough to prevent her from giving in. But boy did she like to tease now, which meant their honeymoon was definitely going to be fun, but the wait was killer for both. I can if you're up for some heavy petting at least, Kasumi answered as she looped an arm around his own. The two stopped to look into each other's eyes for a while and then kissed in a way only loved ones can appreciate. After they stopped, they went back to walking down the beach to the next pier, until something on the shore caught their eye. Is that what I think it is? Jinochi asked as they both crouched down to examine it. Kasumi touched it on a sensitive area. Yes and no. Yes, it is a body, and no, it's not dead. This guy's still alive? Barely. There's hardly any pulse or body heat. It's like he's unconscious with hypothermia or something. He needs medical attention now. Jinochi nodded. Then we'll have to bring him to Kiri right away. There's only a clinic nearby, and they're only qualified for basic injuries and colds. Kasumi nodded, and Jinochi picked up the strange person who washed up on shore. Hey, he's just a kid. Then we better hurry, Kasumi told him, her mind solely on the job now like the professional she was. Without further commenting, the two Kiri-jounin hurried back to their hidden village, wondering what this situation meant. Terumi Mei, the newly appointed Godame Mizukage of Kirigakure, and one of the few people with a Kekkei Genkai remaining within the village, was taking her break when a pair of shinobi came into her office unexpectedly. She internally sighed and carefully placed her unopened orange novel back in one of the desk drawers. Not that she was afraid or embarrassed they'd see it. Yes? Mizukage-sama, we found something you may want to see, Jinochi claimed. Mei's cheerful expression and relaxed position didn't change. Do tell. Ao-san can do that better. He's down in holding cell E with the subject of interest, Kasumi told her. Mei debated with herself about the significance of this situation for a moment. Part of her was curious and felt this was potentially a big deal, and part of her wanted to go back to her break and forget about business for a few minutes more. In the end she figured she might as well go down there and got out of her chair. Fine, I'll be down shortly. Down in a room labeled Holding Cell E, one of several used to contain Kiri's captives, May met up one of her best guards, who also happened to be the one that bothered her the most, albeit unwillingly and unknowingly. So tell me, AO, what is so damn interesting here? All she saw was a man with an eye patch standing next to an examination table with a shroud over it. It was easy to see there was a person underneath it, but that didn't pique May's interest as much as she thought this might. This. The cycloptic Neen said before he pulled the shroud off the table. May took a short look at the body and still wasn't impressed. So? The body turned out to be that of a young boy close to 13 years old at the oldest. He had blonde hair, marks on his face that looked an awful lot like whiskers, and an orange jumpsuit that looked cut up and faded in color now. He was unconscious, overall dry but still damp in some spots. So? AO asked in surprise. On one of our patrols to check out our country's ports, Jansa-san and Mitarigami-san saw this young man washed up on shore looking like he'd been through a stampede or something. I'm amazed this kid was even still alive since he looks like he'd been floating out at sea for several days at least. The Mizuki's expression still didn't change. I'm not interested in how he was found. What I want to know is why all of you deemed some small fry intriguing enough to bring me directly here. That's because of what I saw with this. AO told her as he carefully touched his covered right eye, which happened to be a transplanted Byakugan eye. May's head tilted slightly, telling him subtly she wanted to hear more. My Byakugan saw no wounds, although there were signs of healing. But the real interesting thing here is that I saw two different types of chakra in his network. One blue and one red. May gave the unconscious boy another look over, this time not smiling, before returning her attention to her guard. Are you saying what I think you're saying? She asked with slight fear and interest. AO nodded before giving the boy his own look over. Yeah. I have a feeling this boy may be a Jinchuriki. Although I'm not sure which one. So what should we do with him? We'll keep him held here for now and wait to see if he regains consciousness anytime soon. Then we'll figure it out. May answered and grinned yet again. To be honest, I'm kind of curious about how someone like that would have ended up here. Yeah. We're a long way from the mainland. Makes me wonder what sort of horrible thing could make anyone get washed up like that. AO commented, not noticing as usual May's expression darkening. Hori? With anyone? And washed up? If I had to guess, he fell into the ocean and then currents that loop around the sea between us and the mainland carried him. AO started to think aloud. Shut up or I'll kill you. May told him in a dangerous way with an eerily friendly face. What did I do? AO thought as he tried to back away from the crazed woman, scared witless. She may look gentler than the previous Mizukis, but she was no less intimidating. Not by a long shot. May went back to work and heard nothing more regarding the guest from parts unknown until the end of the day. At that time one of the Kiri told her that he was showing signs of waking up, so she headed back down but in no hurry. When she got there she saw he was already awake and had been transferred to an interrogation room with a window for her to look in through. Of course it was a mirror on the other side. The washed-up boy was sitting on a chair, not tied up but he had been disarmed and his hands were tied behind him. AO stood in front of him but didn't obstruct May's view of the captive. Once his Byakugan told him she was present, he got ready to begin. So tell me boy, who are you and what are you doing here? Right now he was trying the good cop approach, even though he wasn't a professional interrogator. The boy slowly raised his head and blinked several times, conscious but not fully aware of the situation yet. Where am I? I'm the one asking the questions here, bub. So tell me your business here. What business? What is this place? Again boy, I'm the one who'll ask the questions. But for the record, you're being held in Kiri. Kiri? The boy repeated like he had never heard of such a place. How did I get here? Tell me your name. AO demanded, wondering how long this was gonna take. The boy looked like he was actually thinking it over. I don't remember. He then gave AO a frightened look. Have I done something wrong? AO looked curious. What's the last thing you remember? The boy closed his eyes and looked either panicked or like he was trying to recall something but was having a hard time doing so. Maybe it was both. Nothing, he finally said after a few moments. I don't remember anything before just now. AO's Byakugan checked the boy's pulse and saw it was normal. Either he's being honest or he's a damn good actor. Tell me son, do the names Konoha, Iwa, Kumo, or Suna ring a bell? No, nothing in particular. Why, what are they? Oh, nothing. Do you have any idea why you were out at sea earlier? I was at the sea? What was I doing? AO kept his eye on the boy's pulse and still saw no change. Excuse me for a minute, young man. He then left the room and deactivated his acquired eye. Mizuki-sama, I suspect this boy has total amnesia. Mei nodded. As do I. But let's keep him here until we have a chance to confirm this or his identity. I'll go over the records of no Nin and see if anything matches up with him. But that may take a while. See to it he at least has something to eat and maybe something comfortable to sleep on in the meantime. No reason to be barbaric to our guest. She walked away then, and everyone remaining went back to work, wondering what to do with their new captive. Kasumi went down to holding cell E to give the captive something to eat for lunch. Since she and her fiancé had been the ones to find and bring him in, she felt a need to oversee how he was doing for the time being. It was more concern for a helpless kid than anything else, but she was a nice person by nature when not on a mission and couldn't help how she felt about this. Fortunately, Mei had no problem with that for now and let her do the task. She unlocked the door and went inside carrying a small tray of meager food, just miso ramen with some crackers. She noticed the amnesiac. She really wished she knew a name to address him by, passed out on the floor sound asleep and looking rather defenseless just then. Kasumi smiled when she saw him like this. With those whisker-like scars on his cheeks, he reminded her of this cute little kitten she had as a child. There had been a few of the guards here who had wanted to hurt this boy. What if he's a spy from an enemy village? They had whispered. They should drop him back in the ocean, with rocks tied to his neck, was another thing another said. Luckily for him, though, she wasn't there to hurt him. The closest she came to that was when she nudged him with her foot to see how deeply asleep he was. He batted her foot away and did nothing else, anything else. She did it again, a little harder, and she thought she saw his eyelids briefly lift and then close. Maybe I should just leave this here for him and check up on him later. Kasumi thought out loud to herself in a whisper. Once she set the tray down on the floor, the amnesiac blonde started sniffing the aroma and really waking up. What smells so good? He asked with a yawn as he rubbed the sleep for his eyes. Good, you're awake. Just brought you a snack, you must be hungry by now, she said as she slid the tray to him. His stomach growled as if cued to do so just then. And boy did it sound ravenous. Kasumi smiled. Guess I was right. Hope you enjoy ramen. Of course. It's my favorite, he happily said as he sat up. The smile on his face just disappeared, replaced with a look of wonder. Wait, I can remember something now. I eat this stuff all the time back home. And where is your home? Kasumi asked with hope that his memories were returning. He shrugged. Still have no idea. Maybe eating will help me. He quickly downed the whole thing. Kasumi had never seen anyone eat ramen like this before. Maybe you're from the land of udon? I hear ramen's a big thing there. Or maybe land of greens? The young boy thought it over. He closed his eyes and seemed to be deep in thought. Then he opened them and said, I'm not so sure. Nothing comes to mind. As he spoke, he wasn't aware he had one of the fish paste cakes usually served with ramen stuck on the side of his mouth. Kasumi snickered and reached over to take it off him. You had a little something left over. She held it out for him to take, which he did. But he didn't eat it, just looked at it. Something wrong? She asked as she watched his observe the bit of food. Something about a spiral looks really familiar to me, he mentioned. She didn't bother mention his outfit had 2 spirals on it, either of which he could easily see. Maybe it means something else? So spirals might be a common sight wherever you come from? He shrugged again. Maybe. Or maybe these things are common there. Oh, those Naruto cakes are common everywhere with ramen, Kasumi casually stated. Her carefree expression changed to serious when the look of dawning comprehension appeared on his own face. What? I think I just remembered my name, he said with some hesitation. Really? What is it? Kasumi eagerly asked. When you said that, I just had flashes of memories where people called me Naruto. Maybe that's my name. She arched an eyebrow. Naruto? Your name is a ramen topping? She said aloud, but inside she was laughing. Doesn't it have another meaning? Most names do, but it depends on what kanji you use, right? Kasumi nodded. Well, if not fish paste cake, it could possibly mean maelstrom, which is a lot more dignified. He thought it over and then nodded okay. For now, why don't we just go with maelstrom Naruto until I remember otherwise? Kasumi shrugged nonchalantly. Your name, pal, your choice. So can you tell me how long I'm going to be in here? I'm getting a little antsy. The guy now referred to as Naruto asked. Not up to me. But since you're done eating, I can go talk to who does make that call. Kasumi answered as she took his tray and used empty bowl and left the room. It may not be wise, but I do hope things work out for him, Not having any idea who he is or where he's from, that must be a scary feeling. The boy now known as Naruto sat in cell and went searching through his mind. He was trying to find some other kind of memories that might tell him more about his past, but all he did was find darkness. Naruto ran his hand through his blonde hair. Come on, think. My name is Naruto, I'm 13 and I'm in a place called Kiri, that much I know. And now I remember nothing. He laid back down on the floor. Naruto closed his eyes, wanting to try one last search. He thought long and searched deep. Then he remembered something. He remembered pain, a great deal of pain, and hands grabbing him and… wham! He hit another wall in his mind and then once more was met with the darkness of obliviousness. Damn, thought I had something, he muttered bitterly. Naruto remained on the floor with his eyes closed until he once more fell asleep. His name is Naruto, at least that's what he thinks it is. No word on any family name yet, Kasumi told the Mizukage. Naruto, huh? Well, it's not much, but it is a start, Mei said as she leaned back in her chair. What have our informants on the mainland found? Kasumi asked. Mei sighed. Nothing, there are no missing person reports. And we gave his description to some local towns, but no one knows him. She paused and smiled. Perfect. Kasumi stared. Madam? Mei fixed the women with a cold stare, but had a friendly smile on her face. Leave. Kasumi knew better than to argue with the Mizukage, so she bowed and left the room. Mei put her hands together and began to think. No reports, no identification, no memories, no ties to anyone else. Basically, I have total say over the fate of this little Jinchuriki, and we haven't had one here since Yugura-sama. From what I know, most other villages have at least one. 2 of them even possess 2 of the tailed beasts. I'd be an idiot to not seize this opportunity. Now, how to make it all work without any loose ends? So he at least has a name now, but not much else. Kasumi summarized the situation to her fiancé as they sat in the central room of his house. Technically their house, since she was going to move in once they were married, but officially she still lived on her own in a small apartment for now. Anyway, she and Jinochi were sitting across from each other discussing the young boy they brought to Kiri the other day. So what do we call him? Jinochi asked. Get this, Naruto, meaning maelstrom, not the ramen topping. Odd. Any surname? Kasumi shook her head. Not yet. Nor any signs of a kekei genkai or hostile intentions. Or for that matter any intentions at all that I can see. Jinochi arched an eyebrow. So you suspect he might have been a ninja before? You wouldn't have stated that if the thought hadn't crossed your mind. I think it's crossed everyone's minds, even Mizukage-sama. But then again, what kind of shinobi would wear an orange jumpsuit like that? What kind of shinobi gets washed up on shore like litter? Jinochi added. Maybe someone attacked him and tried to get rid of the body? Kasumi suggested without much certainty. But from where though? It's several hundred miles to the mainland and he looked like he had been out there days. I don't even know how he could have survived. I think maybe the Mizukage might know, Kasumi said quietly. Jinochi looked confused. What makes you say that? I went into her office today and when I asked if there had been new information on trying to find out who Naruto is, she said there hadn't been any and she seemed glad. Like she had hoped there wouldn't be any, Kasumi told him. But why would she want it that way? Jinochi asked. I don't know, she began but was interrupted with the words, and neither will you know. Both shinobi turned to Ao standing there. Jinochi looked shocked. Ao-san, how did you get in here? Your door was unlocked. Furthermore, I am surprised both of you let your guard down. If I had been some kind of assassin, I could have killed both of you with ease, the cycloptic ninja said with disappointment in voice. He tended to expect everyone to be dead serious about their jobs, even when they weren't on duty. Both Kasumi and Jinochi briefly looked ashamed. What do you want? Kasumi finally asked. Ao looked around and then turned back to them. I have come to inform you that by order of Mizukage-sama and the militia that all information regarding the boy Naruto is now to be considered an S-rank secret. He said all this quietly, but there was a great deal of menace in his voice. Kasumi and Jinochi looked at each other, and then they both asked why. Ao blinked his one visible eye, then he once more looked around to make sure no one was watching and or listening. That is classified and I am not allowed to share any further information with you. And neither of you are to share this information with anyone besides the Mizukage or myself. If you do, then both of you will be charged with high treason and will be executed. The main reason I'm telling you this is because by law you're allowed to be told because you brought him here. Do you understand what I have told you? Both of them nodded. Ao smiled good. Then he looked Kasumi for a moment before saying the Mizukage in all of her wisdom has decided that Naruto is to become a Kiri ninja and you Kasumi-san are to be his sensei. Kasumi looked both shocked and honored at the same time. And me? Ao nodded yes, as you are the current leader of Squad 8. And from what I understand you are currently lacking one student. As in case you don't recall, the same law that says you're allowed to be told his fate because you brought him here demands he become your responsibility. You will report to Holding Cell E tomorrow and inform Naruto. He seems to trust you. And with that Ao left, leaving behind two shocked and confused shinobi. You informed them of what has and will happen? Mei asked Ao as she sat behind her desk. Ao nodded just as you commanded. Mei smiled, and what of the medical team that examined him? Silenced, and all reports about his discovery and being brought here were destroyed. I also personally saw to it that new records were made to make it seem like the boy Naruto has always been here and is a citizen of Kiri. All he needs is a surname, and it's official, the ninja said proudly. Wonderful, wonderful, everything is working out perfectly. She stood up and looked out her window, staring down at her village. By any chance have you figured out what bija he has? No, madam, we have not been able to even narrow down the list. The name of the tailed beast, or even its container, has always been a closely guarded secret for each village. Mei sighed. Ah well, it doesn't matter at the moment. Ao nodded. Indeed, madam, even if he is the Ichibi, combined with our current military, we would have a strategic advantage over the other villages. Mei looked back and stared at her military advisor with an oh-too-friendly gaze. Why, Ao, you make it sound as if we are at war. The cycloptic ninja looked confused. Well, aren't we, madam? The Mizukage smiled grew even wider and more deadly. No, not yet. Kasumi didn't have a good feeling about today. Her women's intuition told her that things weren't going to go smoothly, and she told the Mizukage this. Mei simply shrugged it off and stated she knew that, but saw no other way to handle the situation and told Kasumi to just deal with it. And Mei could be quite persuasive when she wanted to be. But what exactly was so important about Naruto that he was now considered to be an S-rank secret? She was curious enough to want to ask the Mizukage herself, but she was smart enough to keep her mouth shut. She might be a ninja, but she still valued her life. So now Kasumi was heading to her destination with a guest, awaiting the inevitable bombshell. And her guest didn't look so eager either, but she couldn't really blame him. He had been inside a cell and had almost zero contact with anyone but her, and maybe a guard. When she opened his cell door this morning, Naruto had a look Kasumi had seen once on a man who was going to be executed. But when she had informed him of the Mizukage's order, he seemed to become more relaxed. But she could still sense some hesitation in him, so she tried to act friendly. You want to get something to eat first? Her guest Naruto shook his head no. Not really hungry, maybe later after we're finished with this. She nodded slowly. Gotcha. We're almost there anyway. Their destination turned out to be a white gazebo surrounded by teal flowers, next to a small waterfall. And as they got closer, they could see there was somebody already sitting down inside, a young girl who looked sort of forlorn. She had short hair that framed the sides of her face, and was colored a scarlet red. Her outfit was a dull and unimaginative gray and consisted of a sleeveless top and short skirt with a bit of her midriff showing and bandages around her forearms and shins. She had a long sword strapped to the left side of her hip, which was obstructed from view since her right side was facing the approaching two. Also, her eyes weren't totally visible either. Hello, Shiori-san. Glad you decided to show up. Kasumi shouted when she got close enough. Her voice carried a slight sense of uncertainty as she spoke. The waiting girl, now known as Shiori, turned slowly to face them. Her sad green eyes immediately locked onto Naruto, and gained an indifferent edge quite quickly. You would have written me up if I hadn't, sensei. So this is the chump that Mizukage-sama thinks is good enough for us? She replied with tone of voice that said I came out here for this? What the? Naruto asked himself, wondering what he'd done to deserve that, if anything. Kasumi sighed with irritation. Shiori-san, take that back. She had figured Shiori might act like this. No. It's the truth. He's only here because Mizukage-sama thinks he might fit in here when you and I both know that. Shiori-san. Kasumi cut the girl off with a stern glare. Enough. I know you have issues with the idea, but for the sake of this team, put them aside. Shiori looked madder and then looked away. Easy for you to say. It's harder for some of us to forget. Kasumi stepped in front of the girl, and kept doing it whenever Shiori tried to keep looking away. Shiori-san, you're not the only one who cared about Hikaru-san. I don't like what happened either, but sulking about it isn't going to help anyone. Kasumi's voice was very angry, but she seemed to be keeping control of it. Now we have a new member, whether you like it or not, so deal with it and learn to get along with him. If you won't, then by all means retire. I for one will not keep putting up with a student who acts like a child throwing a temper tantrum. She fell silent and stared at Shiori as if daring her to continue. Shiori looked even madder now and just stormed away, but not before glaring one last time at Naruto. I don't know who you think you are, but you're nowhere near Hikaru-kun's level and you never will be. So just scram and leave us be. She left quickly before anyone could reply. Did I do something? Naruto asked the older woman. He was very confused right now and wondered why this girl was so angry at him for no reason, however the feeling somehow felt familiar. Kasumi sat down in the gazebo and sighed. No, that wasn't your fault. Come sit down. He did as he was told, and she continued. A while ago I had another student. His name was Nyanji Hikaru, and he was Shiori-san's partner. The two had been good friends for years and worked well together as a team. I also think Shiori-san might have had an infatuation for him. But 2 months ago we were on a mission in Land of Lightning and met up with a dangerous man. I and Shiori-san got out of it okay, with only minor injuries, but Hikaru-san didn't make it. The memories of that incident almost brought tears to her eyes, but she suppressed them. I'm sorry, Naruto said sympathetically. Thanks. Anyway, Shiori-san still hasn't really gotten over it, and I think she's trying to make sure she doesn't. She refuses to work with any of the other genin squads, doing only solo missions or ones with just me, and has refused to be transferred to be a part of another group. And we haven't had any genin available to work as a new member until you came along. I think when she looks at you, she feels like you're trying to take his place, and that sickens her. But I'm not. I was just told to work with you. Naruto defended himself. I know that, but I don't think she sees it that way. And I'm not sure if she thinks you're intending that or not, but to her there's probably no difference either way, Kasumi said, and then turned to look in the direction Shiori walked off. I'm not sure what will help her, but I can't just leave her to sulk and stay miserable the rest of her life. Naruto looked in the same direction for a bit, and then stood up. I'll go talk to her for a bit, before she does anything rash. Good luck, Kasumi whispered as he started walking away knowing that he was going to need it. Naruto found the irritable redhead sitting up in a tree looking out at a pond with lots of ducks in it, and in the distance there was one deer getting a drink. It seemed to be a very calming place. It was obvious she knew that he was there since her position shifted, but she was trying to pretend he wasn't there. Not sure what to say that wouldn't start a fight, he waited for her to say something. After 3 minutes she did. What the hell do you want? She didn't even look at him. Hoping to set the record straight, Naruto said calmly. It's none of your business, now leave. Shiori responded, still not looking at him. Naruto leaned against the tree and looked up. Well, since I've been assigned to be on your team, I believe it is. I know you don't like it, that's obvious. But the thing is, I'm not this Hikaru guy and I never will be. And in case you didn't already know, no one else will be either. What you're doing is very immature and disrespectful to me. Shiori practically fumed at hearing that. I said it's none of your business. And what do you know about losing a teammate anyway? Her nails digging into the bark. Can't say. I have no idea what happened in my life before this week. But something happened that changed my life, and to be honest, I'd rather it didn't. If it were up to me, it never would have happened and nothing would have changed. Kinda like how you wish things had been, am I right? Shiori was silent, not wanting to admit he was right. Several times she wished she could go back and change that one event and make it so everything was still the same. But that's not how things work. Change happens whether we want it to or not, and not always in a good way for us. I didn't want to lose my memories any more than you wanted to lose your friend. But that's what happened, and unlike you, I plan to actually cope and try to make some new memories. What are you going to do, sulk in loneliness and misery? Maybe I like misery, maybe I like being alone. Shiori shot back as she dropped out of the tree to look right at him. No one likes being alone, and maybe I didn't know this Hikaru and I never will, but I think I know enough to say that he wouldn't want to see you the way that you are. Shiori was very silent, and so was Naruto. They could hear the buzzing of dragonflies before finally Shiori turned her head slowly, and when she turned to face Naruto he could see tears streaking down her face. Damn you. And then she burst out into sobs. Naruto moved and placed her hand on her shoulder. The crying redhead tried to push him away, but he would not be moved. And that forced her to cry harder. The blonde then hugged her, and she sobbed into his shoulder. It's not fair, she cried. I'm sorry, Naruto said as he continued to hug her. I should have stayed with him. It's my fault. If I had stayed with him, he would have. It's my fault. No, it's not. You didn't kill him, someone else did, Naruto said, feeling that it sounded like the right thing. Shirori looked up from Naruto's shoulder, which was now covered in tears and snot. Why? Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Because we're teammates now, and that's all I need to know, he said, and once more Shirori cried. And from her hiding place in one of the trees, Kasumi smiled. Well done, Naruto, well done. Maybe you will do this team some good. Ao hated to be kept waiting. His informant should have been here over an hour ago. In order to keep the information about Naruto a secret, Ao chose not to use Kiri's vast spy network and decided to use one of his less than legitimate informants. And one of them had just the information he needed. He had arranged for them to meet one of Kiri's smaller and uninhabited islands. Actually, it was just a tiny meek little lump of rock that stuck of the ocean. Where the hell is that bastard? If he was screwing with me then. Ao-sama, Ao-sama. A loud voice rang through the air. The cycloptic ninja turned to see the man he had been waiting for. Akurahiro was an unattractive man. He was pale and skinny, and in some ways resembled a scarecrow that had been brought to life. He was dressed in a simple fisherman's outfit and an oversized coat. When he got close enough, he finally stopped and stooped over to catch his breath. Geez, you had to pick this place for our meeting? No ships even come by here. I had to buy a skiff out of my own money to get here. Do you know how dash? Hiro shut up when he saw Ao's eye narrow, and gulped. I'll shut up and listen now. Ao nodded. Do you have the information? He asked. His eye never leaving Hiro. He detested this man. Hiro always stank of smoke and cheap liquor. Hiro nodded his head vigorously. Oh yes, sir, and I must say that I risked a lot to get this. I can probably never go back to Land of Fire now. I think that might call for an increase of what you're paying me. Ao's face darkened. What I pay you will depend on several things, one which is if you actually brought it. Oh, I brought it, sir, the scarecrow-like man said as he reached into his coat pocket and withdrew a sealed scroll. Everything is right here, he said as he patted it with his free hand. Ao's expression did not change. How can I trust that the information on that scroll is accurate? Hiro gave a bemused smile. Now, sir, has any of the information I have ever given you been wrong? Ao's face still remained cold. Okay then, moving on, you're not going to believe this stuff, sir. I mean, I didn't even believe it, and I'm the one that got the information. But it is the truth. Well then, let me see the scroll, Ao said as he held out his hand. And Hiro drew the scroll closer to him. Yes, sir, we aren't really that friendly, so I'm going to need my money first. Ao gave a small growl, but he reached into his own pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. He saw Hiro's eyes gleam. All of it's there. Now, the scroll. Hiro held out the scroll. Ao took it, and Hiro grabbed the envelope and hugged it to him tightly. Ao shook his head with disgust as he turned around and opened the scroll. He began reading, and his good eye grew wider and wider with every word. He closed the scroll and placed it in his pocket. He then looked over at Hiro, who had torn open the envelope and was counting his money. Ao hated Hiro, but he had always been very reliable when it came to getting information. But why leave any loose ends? He turned and withdrew his kunai. Tsunade was in her office looking at Kurenai and her genin team. None of them looked like anything resembling a good mood. Kurenai and Shino looked the calmest, but that was only because Kurenai was more used to great deals of trouble on a mission than her students. As for Shino, he always kept his face hidden, and you never really knew what he was feeling, ever. Kiba looked like he was wary of something bad about to happen any second, while Akamaru whimpered on top of his head. Hinata meanwhile kept her face down so it couldn't be seen, but her hands were clasped together tightly, and her shoulders were slightly trembling. Whatever it is, this has bad news written all over it. Tsunade briefly thought, and she hated bad news, since bad news meant more work, and as Hokage she had enough work on her hands. Teammate, what happened on your assignment? I'm judging it was a failure since the target doesn't appear to be acquired. Kurenai sighed and briefly closed her eyes before answering. It was. We couldn't find Naruto Uzumaki anywhere. All we did find was a dead-end lead with rather unsatisfying results. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. Go on. She still remembered when she had assigned this mission. Flashback. Where the hell is that idiot? Tsunade demanded. Naruto was 2 weeks overdue from his mission. I am not sure, madam, her assistant Shizen said as she set down a huge stack of files onto Tsunade's desk. But it's unlike him to take this long. Especially when I gave him such an easy mission. Tsunade lightly smiled at that comment. She had Naruto think he was going to be given an A-ranked mission when in reality it was just a C-rank scroll delivery to Wave Country. She remembered laughing at him after he had left, but not in a downright mocking manner. Perhaps he simply has not checked in yet, Shizen offered. Whenever he gets back from a mission he always stops and gets some ramen. Tsunade shook her head. No, I already had all of his usual haunts checked out and no one has seen him. Some even claimed their profits were down due to his absence. No, something is wrong. Then she pulled out one of the files on her desk. Team 8 is currently not doing anything. Send them out and find that baka. Maybe he just got lost? We sure hope so, don't we? Shizen whispered. Yeah, we do. Tsunade affectionately agreed. End of flashback. On our way to try and find out what was taking Naruto so long to return, as you ordered, we happened to encounter a band of bandits having a fun night. We would have just ignored it and continued on, but we heard something that drew our complete attention. Kiri started. However, out the corner of her eye she saw Hinata's shoulders begin to shake harder. Flashback. Wait. Stop. Kiba quietly told his team as they were trying to sneak around a bandit group of about 20 without being seen. Did you notice something? Kiri whispered. I'm not completely sure, but I think I just heard one of those guys mention something about beating a ninja not too long ago. Okay, fan out everyone and try to see if this can be confirmed or not. Kiri told her students, who nodded and spread out to hide in the foliage to spy on the group. Kiri herself used a genjutsu to hide against one of the trees and not be seen. She could have made herself look like one, but she didn't want to risk the chance that one of the targets was perceptive enough to notice a new tree appear out of nowhere. Kiba and Akamaru listened in with their enhanced hearing for anything of interest. Shino used some of his bugs to get a closer look, and Hinata used her Byakugan to read their lips and see if they had anything on them that might prove Kiba's claim right. She gasped once she saw one of the members had a damaged Konoha Hittite in his pocket. The bandit held it out before his companions. Remember this man? A little prize from that stupid blonde leaf ninja. He gloated loudly as he tossed the Hittite into the air and caught it. At hearing that, Hinata tensed up worse than she ever did when being chewed out back home. No, it can't be. Her eyes began to well up with tears. Stupid is right. Another bandit, most likely drunk, shouted in agreement. If that's okay for a ninja village, they must really have let their standards go or something. Do you think that was a serious ninja or just some wannabe? One of the sober men asked. Don't know, don't care. All that matters is we can honestly say we killed a ninja. Even if we did gang up on a young one in his sleep to do it, but that'll be our little secret. The leader claimed as if that was something to be proud of. All members of Team 8 were starting to see red. They ganged up on a 13-year-old boy while he was sleeping and assaulted him, and act like this? I haven't seen lowlifes this bad in years. Kiri thought bitterly. Then she tried to give her one female student a sympathetic look. I sure hope they don't say anything worse, for her sake and his. Unfortunately, they did. Don't you think we maybe should have cut off the head to prove it? One of the drinkers asked, looking a little unbalanced. Nah, with how dumb that kid acted it would have just been empty space to lug around. This headband is prize enough, and probably smarter, the leader replied. That apparently was the catalyst for something no one could have expected. Hinata practically erupted from her hiding spot, silently fuming, and charged at the leader. Everyone was so surprised at this that no one reacted to it, not even her team. Once she got there, she swiftly kicked the man in his groin like her foot was a hammer, and then juken at his throat until he could barely breathe. And once he was down, she moved to the next person in her sight, repeating the same attack. Her eyes were wide with rage and they could see tears streaming down her face. While her team watched in shock and awe, some of the bandits regained their senses and trying to gang up on the pale-eyed Kunoichi. Too much in a rage to retreat into old mannerisms, Hinata used the protective 8 trigrams maneuver to defend herself and cause a little more damage to them. When she stopped, over half the group was downed and only a few more remained unharmed. And they didn't know what to do. What's the matter? Afraid to fight someone who's actually prepared to fight back. You people are scum. Hinata stated bitterly. Her face a mask of rage and pain. Before any of them could actually do anything about her, Shino used his bugs to subdue them and Kurenai hit them all in the back of the head, knocking them out. Kiba and Akamaru came out, ready to do more if any of the downed men tried to get up, but for now his focus was more on his teammate. Holy hell, who are you and what have you done with the real Hinata? He asked, totally bewildered. Not now, Kiba. First let's make sure these thugs can't be of any harm and then see if we can get anything confirming out of them. Kurenai ordered as she pulled out some rope. Everyone on the team took some and tied the men up. Once done, Kurenai used a small water jutsu to wake the leader up. Looking down at the leader of the bandits, Kurenai crouched down and locked her eyes with his. Now describe this ninja you claim to have beaten, she asked him calmly. The bandit looked at her with utter terror in his eye. Ninja? What ninja? He said, feigning innocence as soon as he could breathe again. Kurenai held out the tattered Hittite. The one you got this from. Do you take me for an idiot? She said, her tone remained the same. Oh well, I found that and… Stop talking. Kurenai interrupted before she tossed the headband to Kiba. What can you tell me? She asked her student as he caught it, already having an idea on what the answer would be but wanting confirmation. Kiba sniffed it, and immediately caught the scent of ramen and Naruto's blood. Then he let Akamaru smell it, who after a moment barked in agreement. Kiba looked at his sensei. This definitely has Naruto's scent on it. Kurenai grabbed the man and held him up in the air. Where is Naruto? Tell me the truth, or I swear to Kami I will make you suffer like never before, she ordered in a very dangerous tone as she shook him. The bandit grew very afraid. Wait. Okay, I will tell you everything, just don't hurt me, he cried. Kurenai stopped shaking the man and then she dropped him to the ground. The bandit looked at his captors and began to talk. We were passing through a forest not far from here about a week ago. We saw someone in an orange outfit sleeping up in a tree, but not so high we couldn't see him. Some of my men were restless and threw rocks at him for fun, and it knocked him out. When he fell, we saw the ninja headband and they decided to attack him before he could attack us back. I always knew that outfit was bad news, Kiba muttered to himself. He had told Naruto so many times that no one should wear orange. And where is this boy now? Kurenai asked, but she already knew the answer. William the bandit seemed really hesitant to answer and kept averting his gaze. I mean, after we attacked him he seemed to wake up, he stared to fight, and when his back was turned one of my men kinda hit him across the head, hard. He gulped. I mean, he looked dead, he was bleeding pretty badly, and well, we just sorta tossed his body into the ocean and… But he could not finish because Hinata jumped on him and began slamming her fist into his face harder and harder. She was screaming at the top of her lungs, damn you. It took the strength of both Shino and Kiba to drag her off the man, whose face looked horrible. His nose was broken, his lower lip split, and several of his teeth were gone. Blood was everywhere. Let me go! I'll kill him! Hinata screamed. And then finally she just burst in sobbing. Hat IRL-ish crazy, she hooty locked up, the man said as best he could. But then Kurenai stared down at him, and he shuddered under the gaze of her crimson eyes. I would not worry about her because what she did to you will nothing compare to what happens to you when you face his charges for killing a ninja. End of flashback. Tsunade blinked. She remained the same. Are you telling me that Uzumaki Naruto is… She seemed to have trouble saying the word dead. She said. Hokage-sama, we asked assistance of local seafront town harbors, and they sent out any available search boat, and they found nothing. And when we returned to the village I had each of those men interrogated, all of them told the truth. I truly believe that the leaf ninja Uzumaki Naruto is dead, she said calmly. And with that she reached into her pocket and pulled out Naruto's headband and placed it on the desk. Tsunade looked at it for a moment, then she reached over and picked it up. Thank you for your report, you may go now, she said as she turned her chair around. The members of Team 8 bowed and left, leaving Tsunade alone as she gripped the headband tightly in her hand and whispered quietly. That idiot. Then the tears began to flow. Kurenai had left the group to go speak to Kakashi, leaving Kiba, Shino, and Hinata alone. Hinata was very silent. She had not said a word since they had gotten back, so it was just Kiba and Shino talking. It is hard to believe that Naruto is gone, Shino said, his voice as empty of emotion as it always was. Kiba nodded. Yeah, I know. I always figured that Naruto was too stubborn to die, he said. Hinata's eyes widened. Kiba, not noticing, continued, I mean, though he should have been smarter than that. Sleeping in a tree out in the woods, and wearing orange. Orange is a dead giveaway. If he hadn't worn that stupid jack. Shut the hell up. Hinata screamed at Kiba and hit him in the back of his head. Her hit wasn't quite as strong as Sakura's would have been, but it got the same point across. Kiba was completely caught off guard by her sudden outburst. What, Hinata-chan? I don't mean to speak ill about the dead, but… He is not dead, the kunoichi cried and ran off. Hinata-chan? Wait! Kiba yelled and attempted to run after her, but Shino stopped him. Let her go. She needs time, he told him. Kakashi walked down the street reading the newest issue of Aika Aika. He just loved his smut books. And he had even heard that they were planning on making it into a movie. He would make sure he was the first person to see it. Kakashi. A voice reached him. The copycat ninja stopped and turned around, seeing Kurenai coming up behind him. He closed his book. Kurenai, how are you? He said as he smiled beneath his mask. I'm just fine, Kakashi, she said in a distraught tone which caused him to raise a brow. What's wrong? He asked. Kakashi, I have some bad news. She took her friend and told him the dark news, and Kakashi dropped his book onto the ground. An hour later, Tsunade sat alone in her office, just staring out the window, staring into the night. She was holding a bottle of sake, not drinking, just holding in one hand, and Naruto's Hitite in the other. And so my cursed necklace takes another, she said aloud. She had given her necklace to Naruto just as she had given it to her younger brother and her beloved. Both of them had died, and she had thought that Naruto could break the curse. But no, now he was gone. She hated that baka. She hated when he had always called her Oba-chan. She hated his pranks. She hated his idiocy. And she had loved as if he were her son. She loved his courage. She loved his happy-go-lucky attitude. And she loved his determination to overcome any obstacle no matter the odds against him. But now he was dead, and so was his dream. Then there was a knock at the door. Tsunade turned around, wondering who would be here at this hour. Yes, come in, she called. The office door opened, and in stepped Hinata. Oh, Hinata? Tsunade said with surprise as she put the still full sake bottle onto the desk. Forgive me if I am disturbing you, Hokage-sama, Hinata said as she bowed. Not at all, girl. I was just looking over some papers. Tsunade lied. I would like to ask a favor, Hokage-sama, Hinata stated with a great deal of courage in her voice. Oh yes, of course, what it is? The medical master asked. I would like Naruto-kun's Hitite. She pointed to the headband that was still gripped in Tsunade's hand. Tsunade looked at it, and then at Hinata. Why do you want it? As a memento? Hinata shook her head. No. I want it so I can someday return it to Naruto-kun. Tsunade looked at her, and then sighed. Hinata, Naruto is dead and… No, he is not, Hinata stated defiantly. What? Tsunade asked skeptically. I do not believe no, I know Naruto-kun is not dead, she said calmly. Tsunade folded her hands and looked at Hinata. How do you know this? Hinata was silent for a moment. She seemed hesitant to answer, but then she gathered up all of her courage. I am in love with Naruto-kun. I loved him from the first time I ever saw him, she said boldly and proudly. Tsunade was taken back by this. She had never expected the heir to the Hyuga to be in love with a knucklehead like Naruto. Why, you loved Naruto? Hinata nodded yes. With every fiber of my being. And I can feel in my heart that he is not dead. Call it instinct or women's intuition or whatever, but I just know he's still alive somewhere, she said. Tsunade stared at her, not taking her eyes off of Hinata. And then she stood up from her desk and walked over to Hinata and then encompassed the girl in a hug. I believe you. I believe that Naruto is still alive. Although a more accurate thing might have been I want to believe too. Then she released Hinata and handed her the Hitite. She looked at it for a moment, then she tore off her own headband and put on Naruto's in its place. Now can you get a hold of Jiraiya-sama? Why? Because he's the only one who'll want to find Naruto-kun as much as we do. And maybe the only one who can. To anyone who felt Naruto getting ganged up last chapter was unrealistic, remember that Naruto was asleep. It's really easy to gang up on someone when they're asleep and also when they're not awake enough to retaliate. Naruto can be caught off guard just as much as anyone else can, and I'm not the only one who's done something like that for the story's sake. Jiraiya was inside his humble abode, which was a rather small hut on the outskirts of Konoha to bunk in when he actually stayed at the village. He had a number of homes ranging from this to grand houses elsewhere. He usually didn't stay for long though in most of them. So here it just really had a futon, a washroom, a desk with spare writing supplies, and a few other basic necessities for someone like him, including some of his favorite dirty magazines. Of course those magazines were used purely for, in his words, research. Just when he was about to use the restroom, he heard a knock on his door. Cursing for the bad timing under his breath, he answered it and saw an Umbu. Jiraiya-sama, the masked ninja said with a quick bow. Hokage-sama requests your presence at her office at once. Okay, I'll be there. Just give me a minute to take care of something first, he stated before closing the door. When the perverted hermit finally arrived at his former teammate's office, he was a bit later than was normally accepted. He would have been there sooner, but he couldn't resist giving a quick pause to look at an attractive woman walking down the streets. Before he even opened the door, though, he could sense the bad mood emitting from within. Oddly enough, it didn't feel overly hostile or destructive as it usually did, making him think Tsunade wasn't actually upset with him, or as likely to take her rage out on him. Oh, the memories he had of being used as her punching bag. He opened the door and waved to Tsunade. "So what's on your mind, Haim?" he said with a casual smile on his face. Tsunade was sitting behind her desk. Her face was looking stern but not angry. "Jiraiya, how ready is that trip you were about to take Naruto on?" she bluntly asked, trying her hardest to ensure her voice didn't show any sadness just yet. She wanted to tell her teammate the bad news, but needed to know this part first. Jiraiya blinked in confusion first before answering. "Why? Are you so eager for me to take him now?" He laughed, thinking the blonde fool had finally driven Tsunade to the brink of insanity. "If you had to, could you?" Tsunade inquired. Jiraiya thought it over. "I suppose I could. I still need to consult a contact in the water country and maybe in one more place, but nothing that really couldn't be done if he was there." "Why?" "I thought I'd give him a little more time to bond with his comrades and try to learn a few extra tricks before I took him out of the village." "Jiraiya, sit down for this," Tsunade said and gestured to the seat in front of her desk. Jiraiya took his seat and Tsunade continued. "I have 2 things to tell you, and I don't need you acting up regarding it, like you normally would," Tsunade told him, sounding almost maternally. Like a parent about to tell their child the family pet was dead. Her teammate was slow to react, but he did, and she sighed before she said more. "I need you to go on that trip now. Maybe tonight, tomorrow morning at the latest, and I doubt your new pupil will be that patient." "Yeah, Naruto sure isn't patient. That's one of the things I'll try and teach him," the Toad Sage remarked offhandedly, only catching a glimpse of Tsunade's pained expression. "Did I say something wrong?" he quickly asked. The Hokage nodded. "Jiraiya, there's been a slight change of plans. You see, I currently don't know where Naruto is," she said as she closed her eyes. "What?" "He never returned from his last mission, and the retrieval team has reason and evidence to suggest he may have been killed." Tsunade couldn't prevent one tear from rolling on her cheek. Jiraiya couldn't believe his ears. He was sure this had to be some sort of joke. He looked around expecting Naruto to just appear and yell surprise. But Tsunade was a terrible trickster, aside from her appearance. And this was too much to joke about, even if she was trying to mess with him. "What happened?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. According to the report, Naruto was resting for the night when a gang of bandits found him and attacked him before he could fully wake up. They dumped Naruto's body out to sea and kept a hold of his headband as a trophy. The retrieval team encountered them, heard the story as they gloated about it, and beat them up like the scum they were. The headband was retrieved and confirmed as Naruto's, but it is currently in someone's custody until further notice, she told him. "So the retrieval team didn't find his body yet?" the old man said with a sigh of relief. Tsunade nodded. "Correct, and I think we might have felt some amount of the Kyuubi's chakra flare up if he did die. Since the evidence is circumstantial, I believe there may still be a chance, however small it is, that Naruto Uzumaki is still alive somewhere in the elemental countries. I need you to go out on your trip and find him. No one can do this better than you." "You can count on me, Haim. I'll find the Gaki in no time," he told her to cheer her up, because she clearly needed it. It worked a little bit. "Also, I'm giving you a different student to take with you, to train as you would have trained Naruto until you find him." This was something Jiraiya didn't expect to have added on. "Another student? Why? Wouldn't that just slow me down?" "Normally yes, but for the sake of your mission and this genin's well-being I'm insisting you take her along." "Her? You're actually trusting me with a female student? This must really mean a lot to you." Tsunade narrowed her eyes, but in a non-threatening way, since his words did have validity. "I'm assigning you to take her along, and teach her for a multitude of reasons. 1. This particular kunoichi has strong feeling for Naruto. Hearing about his presumed death has taken a heavy toll on her, and will affect her greatly. She may even lash out at anyone to relieve her own pain, or maybe die on a mission on purpose to join Naruto in death. As Hokage, I can't allow either. 2. If you do manage to find Naruto alive, I want her to be there when you do, so it'll ease both of their minds. Trust me, it will do them wonders to see each other under the circumstances. And 3. This particular genin doesn't exactly have the best image in her family, so receiving training from a Sannin might make her family appreciate her more, and thus helping her self-image and her own career." Jiraiya thought it over. "Exactly who are you describing? Because if it's that pink-haired girl, I gotta say I find that hard to believe." He knew how much Naruto liked that girl, but she seemed to have more affection for the renegade Sasuke. A rather unhealthily amount of affection. No, it's not Sakura. It's Hyuga Hayashi's firstborn, Hyuga Hinata. Tsunade answered. I suppose Naruto could do worse, the Toad Sage said, remembering the timid girl from before. Jiraiya, this is serious. This girl really cares about Naruto, perhaps more than anyone in this village. Whether it's real love or just a strong crush is irrelevant now. This girl honestly may lose the will to live or her freedom to be in public if she stays here surrounded by people who may cheer for her loved one's death. She knew that many of the villagers would love the idea that the container for the QB was dead. Taking her with you to find Naruto is the best course of action, because I don't want to see blood on her hands because of all this, and if she stays here someone will be died by her hands sooner or later. Either herself or one of Naruto's haters, but it will be inevitable. Okay, but what exactly do I do with her once I take her? Do for her what you would have done for Naruto, Tsunade simply replied. You mean train her? Jiraiya said surprised. Tsunade, let's be realistic. The type of training I talk of is not normal. It was the kind that you, I, and Orochimaru did as teammates. Both of them shuddered at the memories of those torturous days. What about you, can't you train her? Jiraiya asked. Tsunade shook her head. No, I already have Harino Sakura, and I cannot take on another. But the only reason I was willing to do it with Naruto was because of his strong stamina and his chakra reserves that he got from the Kyuubi. I know that the Hyuga are renowned for their strength, however I have doubts. Tsunade folded her hands together and stared intently at Jiraiya. The old man hated that stare. It was her I'm completely serious and don't say a word stare. Very well then, let me put it this way. Do you recall the beating I gave you when I caught you staring at me in the women's bath? Jiraiya gulped. With excruciating detail. Emphasis on the excruciating part. Closest I ever came to dying. I want you to imagine that pain but increased 100 times fold. Now imagine that pain being inflicted upon you in real life for 3 days in a dark room where no one can hear you scream. All of that will become reality unless that girl is taken as your apprentice. She told him. Jiraiya thought that statement over and then answered. So her name's Hinata, right? The Toad Sage had left Tsunade's office in a hurry before the crazy old woman found another reason to make good on her death threat. After hearing about his newly appointed apprentice, Jiraiya had one more thing to do before it could be declared official. And to him this might have been the hardest part of the whole ordeal, getting Hayashi to agree to it. Hyuga Hayashi did not have the warmest reputation around town. Rumor had it he could activate the dreaded Hyuga seal with just a glare, but Jiraiya felt that was just hype. The man did once have a wife and currently 2 daughters, surely he wasn't ice all the way to his core. While Jiraiya tried to think of the best way to phrase his request, the guards around the estate noticed him approaching and immediately stood at attention. Do you have any business here, Sanin-sama? The guard asked, trying his hardest not to sound intimidated by the Sannin. Yes, I need to discuss something with Hyuga Hayashi. Right away. One guard went inside while the other stayed to defend his post. Neither made any small talk while they waited, so after a tense 3 minutes Jiraiya was led towards Hayashi's personal study room where he was sitting at a desk, facing his guests rather than the furniture. Welcome Jiraiya-sama, to what do I owe this visit? The clan leader asked as he bowed his head. Hayashi-san, I need to request something of you. Not of your clan, just you. The rest of the clan has no business in this. This certainly got Hayashi's attention. I'm listening. He wondered what kind of request Jiraiya had for him. I ask for your approval in taking on your eldest daughter as a pupil. To learn under me for a period of time that may last as long as 3 years. During which she will be required to be in my care, observation, and protection at all times. The Toad Sage stated formally, hoping this would appeal to the clan head. Said clan head thought it over carefully. If I understand him correctly, he wants to take Hinata somewhere with him for a few years. She could be in danger, but being with a Sannin will minimize any real risks. And maybe if she actually learns anything from him, then she finally won't be such a blemish to the Hyuga. She had the blood of a noble clan running through her veins and it sometimes sickened him to think that his eldest child and heir could be so weak. Can you guarantee she will actually learn anything from you? Hayashi asked aloud. Some father. Shouldn't he be asking more about what I can do than what she can do? Jiraiya quickly thought. I'm a Sannin with years of experience. You can rest assured that I have some tricks up my sleeves that will benefit her. And how will this endeavor affect her already abysmal skills? I cannot do this if you'll only end up making her jutsu worse. He asked coldly. He would not allow Hinata to go out if only to embarrass the clan more by learning nothing from under the teachings of a Sannin. Could this guy possibly be more frigid? Jiraiya couldn't help but comment to himself. At least now he knew that some rumors around the village had been accurate. Well, Hayashi-san, if that's really what you think, do you actually believe they can get worse? Not unless you were to become crippled or something equally worse. Jiraiya struggled to not sigh in disappointment. I can promise she will remain able-bodied, and stronger than you could imagine. Hayashi thought it over a little more. Very well then, maybe you can finally make her somewhat of a decent kunoichi. But I will have expectations for when she returns, and they better be met. He then sighed. Sometimes I wish her cousin Niji had been my son, now he would worthy of the blood and power of the Hyuga. Thank you for your support, the Toad Sage said before leaving and maybe causing physical damage to something or someone. When he was out of sight of the Hyuga compound, he shook his head in disgust. How could any father be so cold-hearted to their child? No wonder the girl was timid. Growing up around a father like that would give anyone low self-esteem. Later that evening, Jiraiya headed over to Training Ground 8, where Tsunade told him his new pupil was waiting for him, already packed. He saw her leaning patiently against a tree, using her Byakugan to know when he'd arrive. Jiraiya gave Hinata a quick look over and he had to say he was impressed. Her soft white skin, her pale eyes, her nice slim figure, and her dark hair. This girl was attractive for someone her age. Now if only he could figure out why she was attracted to a knucklehead like Naruto. So you think you are worthy to train under the great tutelage of the mighty Toad Sage and powerful Sannin Jiraiya? He stated in his brash blowhard voice as he approached her. Hinata didn't move. Not really. But you can help me find Naruto-kun, and for that I need your help. Then answer me this, child, he said as his finger pointed to Hinata. What are you willing to do to find Naruto? What are you willing to risk? The heiress to the Hyuga main house stared boldly at the Toad Summoner. I would do anything to find Naruto-kun. I would travel to the very gates of hell, and I would give my own life for him. Inwardly the Sannin thought about writing this down in his notebook later one. He could turn this into a story. Beautiful and devoted girl willing to go to hell itself to find her lost love. It could be his next big hit. Jiraiya smiled. There is hope for you as my disciple, he said as he placed his hand on Hinata's shoulder. And don't worry, I believe you that Naruto is alive, and we will find him. Hinata bowed her head. Thank you, Jiraiya-sama. Now when do we start training? Jiraiya laughed. Pick up your bag, girl, we leave immediately. Next chapter will show how Kakashi and Sakura handled the news of Naruto's death, and then we'll get back to Naruto himself for a bit. It was truly amazing how fast information could spread, like a wildfire at some points. The next day word about Naruto being pronounced dead had spread throughout most of Konoha, courtesy of several jounin telling other shinobi. As expected, those on the remainder of the Rookie 12 in Konoha who were unaware were shocked and saddened, while the majority of the village felt it was about time. A few parties tried to form on the street, only to be forced to stop by the Umbu and the teaching jounin. Nevertheless, the civilians decided to save it for indoors on their own property that night, to ensure Tsunade and others couldn't punish them. The three rookie teams that knew Naruto felt bad for him, but not so much they cried for long or at all. Those that did shed tears were Chuji, Lee, and to a lesser extent Ino. Even Shikamaru seemed to fall into some kind of depression, while others felt bad but didn't know him well enough to cry for him or couldn't bring themselves to do it. Their senseis felt bad but at the same time glad it wasn't one of their students. They hated themselves for thinking that but couldn't help but feel such thoughts were normal for the situation. That didn't make it easier though. For the remaining two members of Team 7, the story was a bit more complicated. Kakashi stood alone in the training ground next to the stone with names of Kia, the shinobi of Konoha who had been killed in action. The famed copycat ninja was here to add Naruto's name. And as he stood there looking at all of the names, he could not help but think that this was his fault. Kakashi was a failure as a teacher. He had not lost one but two of his students. And he could only blame himself. He had not trained Naruto as much as he should have. Oh, he had shown him a few tricks but he had never actually taught him anything. Instead he had focused all of his time with Sasuke. He had spent so much time teaching the Uchiha, and why? Because he had thought that Naruto did not have the talent to become a great ninja. At the time the team was formed, and later was still in the beginning stages, it all made so much sense to him. Sasuke was the only one of his students that actually came from a clan, so he therefore had the most talent for it. Sure, Kakashi didn't know who sired Naruto, but surely it couldn't have been someone from a clan or else they would have taken him in. The fact that Naruto was left alone only told Kakashi that he had no significant heritage whatsoever, therefore no real place in the world of shinobi. Much like Sakura, a civilian child who only got involved just so she'd have an excuse to be around her crush. Naruto was probably a similar case, except he wanted an excuse to be noticed instead. But he had been proven wrong. Clan heritage or not, Naruto had surpassed his expectations. He had defeated the Hyuga genius Neji. He then stopped Gaara of the desert from destroying the village. Kakashi had seen the destruction at the Valley of End, the aftermath of Sasuke and Naruto's battle. It looked as if titans had clashed there. The carnage caused by the Chidori and the Rasengan would be around for ages to come, on display for anyone who happened to come across it. And yet even with his mighty Sharingan eye, Kakashi had been too blind to see the potential Naruto had. For a man who claimed to always notice what's underneath the underneath, when it came to Naruto all he noticed was the obvious. And now Naruto was dead, as was his dream. However, Kakashi intended for Naruto's memory to be honored. The masked ninja took out his kunai and began to etch Naruto's name in the rock. Maybe he wasn't the model shinobi, but even he doesn't deserve to be forgotten. At the Haruno household, Sakura was in her room. Her door was locked and her shades drawn. Her room had once been a happy place, but now one could feel only the aura of sadness and depression that ran through it. All over the floor were pictures that had once adorned the walls. Now they were scattered on the ground like trash. Sakura simply lay on her bed, lying so still people might have mistaken her for dead had it not been for the trail of tears running down her face. Naruto, she whimpered as she clutched one picture in her hand. Flashback. Sakura walked out of Konoha Hospital smiling. For the past few weeks she had been working at the hospital as an intern healer. And she was actually doing a decent job at it. She had not been doing anything serious, just healing some small cuts of wounds, but her skill was increasing slowly. Tsunade said it would not be long before she was ready to start something major. Sakura was considering going down to the flower shop and chatting with Ino. But then suddenly she felt sort of an eerie presence behind her. She turned around quickly expecting to see some kind of pervert, but instead she saw something almost worse. Shino. "Greetings, Sakura," he said as he bowed his head. Sakura always felt that Shino was creepy. The way his voice was always so stoic, or how she could never tell what his facial expressions were, and how he had told them he literally had thousands of bugs living inside his body. All that made him not her first or second choice for company. However, she did not let those emotions show. She smiled and replied, "Hi Shino, how are you?" "I am just fine, thank you, but I have come bearing some news that you might find unsettling." "What news?" Sakura asked, confused. "Uzumaki Naruto is dead." Sakura felt as if her heart had just skipped a beat. What? She must have misheard him, or that he was joking. Shino repeated his previous sentence. His tone no different than before. "Uzumaki Naruto is dead." Shino, that's not funny, don't joke like that," Sakura said, still believing what he had said or what she had heard. "I do not joke, and even if I did I can't imagine why one would joke on a matter as serious as this," Shino answered. Sakura stared at him, looking into his dark shades. "Naruto is dead." She choked the last word out in a way only Hinata could top. Shino nodded yes, he was killed on his mission away. "I am sorry," he said as he bowed his head once more, then turned and left. Sakura stood rooted in her spot, hearing his words replay over and over in her mind. Killed on his mission away, killed on his mission away, killed on his mission away. And then the pink-haired girl felt something running down her cheeks. She reached up and touched her face. She was crying. She was crying for Naruto. Sakura turned around and began to slowly walk. Then it turned into a fast walk, then she was running. She ran past all of the people who were in front of her, pushing them out of her way. The tears continued to fall from her face. She continued running until she reached her house. Her parents weren't home, so she ran up the stairs and into her room, slamming the door behind her. She then looked at her walls. They were covered with pictures. Pictures of her parents, pictures of her at Konoha Festival, pictures of her with friends, and of course pictures of Sasuke. So many pictures there were of the famed Uchiha, the boy who had captured Sakura's heart. She had done everything to try and get him to notice her, and all he had done was given her a cold, uncaring look and move on. And then there had been Naruto. He had always been there with a smile on his face whenever he saw her. He had always been willing and ready to spend time with her, only to have his offers refused. He had always asked Sakura to go out on a date with him, and all she had done was call him an idiot and hit him on the head. Naruto had done so much for her. He had even sworn to her that he would Sasuke back no matter what. He had looked at her and called her friend. But what kind of friend was she? Sakura then looked on the walls and she realized something. She had no pictures of Naruto. She had pictures of everyone from the academy, but not one of Naruto. Even Shino was included, albeit in a group photo, but nonetheless there. Sakura began to tear through the wall looking for a picture with Naruto in it. There had to be one here, she thought desperately as she began tearing down the tacked-up pictures. Surely among them there had to be some that had the orange-dressed knucklehead. She pulled down every picture and looked at them, her eyes growing wider and wider. Not one had any sign of Naruto. Not even a part of him nudged into the background. It was not until she had come to the last picture, with all the other lying on the floor ignored and forgotten. It was the picture she was looking for. It had been taken the day Team 7 had been formed. There was her, Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke, and at the very end where Naruto had been, that end had been folded so it did not show him. Sakura took the tack out and unfolded the picture. And there was Naruto. With his goofball smile. Sakura, although she had been Naruto's teammate, had never actually thought much of him. She knew he had this crush on her since she had known him. But she had always refused his advances. Still, she would call him a friend and teammate if someone asked her what she thought of him. She still wanted to think of him that way. But now, she could only think of one thing when that thought went through her mind. What kind of friend alters the one photo they have of their friends so they don't have to look at them? Sakura then felt the tears well up in her eyes again. She now knew that she had lost perhaps the one person who had truly cared and loved her. Or at least, the one non-relative who showed it. "Oh Naruto," she whispered as she hugged the picture to her. And then she wept harder than the day Sasuke had left, for reasons she didn't comprehend and yet felt she should. End flashback. Sakura had no idea how long she lied there on her bed. Time had no meaning that day or night. But the sound of her mother downstairs the next morning was enough to snap her out of her funk. Sakura at first wanted to go downstairs and tell her the bad news that her other teammate was gone, but the moment she placed her foot on the ground she froze. Wait, telling Mom won't be a good idea, would it? I mean, she never liked him and was so mad when she heard he was my teammate in the first place. But since then he's helped me out a lot, and shown he's not a horrible person. Mom should understand this is a big deal to me, shouldn't she? She didn't feel as confident as she wanted to, but did feel she had to say something to someone. Sakura went downstairs and saw her mother setting up breakfast. And it was her favorite kind too, in good quantity. Fortunately by now Tsunade had been able to get the point across to her pupil that diets were bad ideas for kunoichi, so Sakura ate regularly again. After sleeping through dinner last night, and smelling the wonderful aroma in the dining room, Sakura was suddenly starving. "Good morning, Mom," Sakura said with a hint of tiredness still in her voice. "Good morning, sweetheart." Haruno Aina greeted her daughter in the most chipper and happy voice Sakura had ever heard. "You seem to be in a good mood, Mother," Sakura said, wondering what she had missed. "Many of the villagers are in a good mood, my dear," Aina said as she finished setting the table. "Why, what happened?" Sakura asked, completely confused. "The demon is dead," her mother answered, her smile never faltering. "A demon? What demon?" Aina paused for a moment, looking both ways as if checking to make sure no one heard her. "Well, I guess there is no sense in hiding it anymore since he is dead. The demon I am referring to was the Kyuubi." "The Kyuubi died years ago, Mom. We celebrate its death every year," Sakura answered, thinking her mother had gone mad. Aina shook her head. "No, my sweet daughter, it did not. The wretched beast lived on as Uzumaki Naruto." Sakura felt as if her brain had snapped in half. Naruto, the Naruto who had come in dead last at the academy but still graduated. The Naruto who had pulled hundreds of pranks on the people of the village, none lethal but most humiliating. The Naruto whom had sworn to become Hokage had been the Kyuubi? That is impossible," Sakura stuttered. "There was no way Naruto could have been such a terrible beast." "It is not impossible. You see, Sakura, the fourth did not kill the Kyuubi. So instead he chose to seal it inside an orphan child. And then the honorable third, although I will never understand why, allowed the child to live. He then passed a decree that no one was to ever speak of the event to anyone. Not even our children. But we did try to make it so none of you got close to that monster." Suddenly things began to fall into place for Sakura. She felt a horrible knot forming in her stomach. She remembered a day when she had been a little girl with her mother walking down the street, and she had seen a group of villagers throwing stones at a little blonde boy. She remembered her mother muttering under her breath, "Damn demon." Now she understood why Naruto had been treated so badly by all of the people, why he had been avoided as if he was some kind of disease. It was because people were afraid of something that was not there. They thought that the jailer was the criminal. Sakura then looked back at her mother, who was still smiling happily, oblivious to her daughter's pain. "Well, at least we will no longer have to worry about that wretched monster. Because it is finally dead." Sakura mumbled something. What was that, sweetheart? Aina asked. Naruto was not a monster, she said as she looked up at her mother, who had a confused expression. He was not a demon, or a beast, he was not the Kyuubi. He was just an innocent person who was treated horribly and abused. The only monsters are the people who hurt him, like you, Mom. Don't you dare talk to me like that! Aina screamed at her daughter, wondering what gotten into Sakura. Normally her daughter was such a good girl. No, Naruto had done nothing to deserve what he got. He was a human being, damn it. And you're throwing a damned party to celebrate his death? Aina stared at Sakura, and then a sneer formed on her face. Since when did you care about him? I seem to remember you saying that he was an annoying little freak and you wished he would just leave you alone. Sakura fell silent and hung her head. It was true. She had insulted him, degraded him, and hit him so many times that if she ever had bothered to count, she would have lost track years ago. She had treated Naruto with little more respect than a punching bag. So why did all this bad news hurt her so much? One thing that really bothered Sakura was that had she heard this info about Naruto a few months ago, she might have been inclined to agree with her mother. But two things prevented her from doing so. One, the fact that her sorrow for him had opened her eyes more to his actions that did not in any way say he was a rampaging creature in human form. And two, Tsunade had showed her a few of the basics of sealing, so naturally Sakura was smart enough to see that a scroll wasn't the same thing as what was inside it. That would be like saying the sheath is the sword. Thinking this over, Sakura raised her head to respond. Maybe I wasn't the nicest person, but at least I never tried to kill him, and I did have the perfect opportunity for that once. Can you say you never tried to kill him either? Aina looked shocked. You had the chance? When? When Kakashi-sensei tested us. Naruto was tied up and Sasuke-kun was trapped in the ground. Kakashi-sensei told me to kill Naruto or else he'd kill Sasuke-kun. But you know what? I couldn't. It didn't feel right. Sakura explained, feeling prouder about her choice now for some reason. Aina, however, was livid. What the hell? You had the opportunity. Every one of us has wanted to get rid of that scum and do it legally, but you passed it up. We could have gained so much by being the family that did away with the Kyuubi and you pissed the chance away? Are you a complete idiot? Sakura frowned, this time more angered by her mother's outburst than saddened. No, you're the idiot if you think Naruto was the Kyuubi, Mom. Don't you? Aina started to scream, but was cut off by Sakura slapping her. Just shut up and think about it for a moment. Naruto wanted to become Hokage, so why would he want that if he was the Kyuubi? And why would he save my life if he was only going to kill us all later on? And you yourself said just a moment ago that the fourth sealed it inside a child? What would be the point of that if the Kyuubi took over the child's body? Aina had been stunned silent by the slap, but soon refound her voice. So we could kill it once and for all, obviously. If that's what the fourth wanted, wouldn't he have told the third that? Sakura countered. Aina scoffed. The third was a senile fool. Sakura frowned, knowing she wouldn't be able to change her mother's mind now or any time soon. I'm going out for a walk. Good. Maybe the fresh air will get that nonsense out of your head, Aina remarked bitterly. Sakura said nothing as she headed outside, having no idea where to go, just needing to be away at the moment. She walked, and all the time she thought about things that up until now would have simply been overlooked or pushed aside. Like how Naruto's life must have been such a miserable and lonely one. And how many times had his life been threatened by the people whose fear caused unwarranted hatred. And yet Sakura could not remember a time Naruto did not have a smile upon his face whenever she saw him. It made her sick to think how much abuse Naruto must have hidden behind that smile, and even sicker to think she believed he had to have been a simpleton to have such an attitude. After all, Sasuke suffered a great tragedy and wallowed in it for years, so she thought anyone else suffering would naturally do the same. The fact that Naruto didn't must have meant he was just fine, albeit naive. Now that she thought about it all, she couldn't help but admire Naruto. For that blonde prankster to have enough courage and strength to keep on going on, even when people kept trying to bring him down. To not look back and just keep moving forward and growing stronger. To not sulk in his misfortune like Sasuke had done. It would be inspiring to anyone. Anyone that didn't blindly hate him, that is. Sakura stopped and a small smile crept onto her face. Goodbye, Naruto. I am sorry I wasn't a better friend and teammate to you. I hope wherever you are that you can forgive me. And you were one of the strongest people I knew. Sakura then continued her walk, feeling that she would not be returning home today. Okay, Naruto-san, before we get you started on any actual missions or specific training routines, let's see what you can already do, Kasumi said to her new student after he and her old one had come back to the training ground. Now that they had gotten past the meeting with each other, it was time to get serious. I don't really know anything, sensei, Naruto meekly admitted. I was told by the Mizukage experts that my body shows I was a ninja once, but I can't recall any actual experience being one. That's why I've got something up my sleeve to jumpstart your muscle memory at least, Kasumi replied. Muscle memory? Naruto arched an eyebrow, completely oblivious to the term's meaning. Yes. You see, when you do an action repeatedly over a long period of time, your body actually remembers how to do it on its own. That way, some actions don't even require direct thought to control. She saw that he didn't quite get it. You know how to walk, right? He nodded. But do you bother thinking about which leg is moving or how fast? He shook his head. That's because the memory for walking is stored in your leg muscles as well as your mind, so you never really forget how to do it. Sort of like riding a bike? Naruto asked. Exactly. Now, what we're going to do here is let you and Shiori-san here have a light spar to see how your body reacts. Because of the circumstances, Shiori-san, use only taijutsu and go easy on him until I say otherwise. Kasumi continued, and her student nodded in understanding before handing her sensei her sheathed sword. Naturally, Naruto-san, you're going to be on the defensive at first. And that's okay to start, but I'd like to see you make an offensive attempt if you can. Naruto looked uneased for a moment. But isn't it a bad idea to hit girls? Kasumi scoffed and shook her head. We're ninja, there is no such thing as a dirty fight to us. Save the chivalry for the nobles and the samurais. But when you're not on duty and around most people, that is a good principle to have. Now get ready. Shiori got into a ready stance with her fists in front of her at mid-torso level and her feet apart. Naruto tried to mimic it, making Kasumi arch an eyebrow but remained silent. Okay, so he doesn't have a style, he would naturally fall into a stance of. Taijutsu may not be this kid's specialty. Ready? Begin, she ordered. Shiori made the first move naturally. And she didn't bother going at it with her full skill, mostly because of Kasumi's orders and her own interest in seeing what her new teammate could respond with. However, that did not mean she would go too easy on him. So she moved at academy speed rather than experienced genin speed and left herself an opening intentionally, mostly to goad him into retaliating and testing his strength. Naruto did the only thing that came to mind when she got close to him. He stepped to his right side and did a karate chop to the back of her neck, making her stumble and fall to her knees. More out of surprise than pain. Okay, didn't see that coming, Kasumi muttered under her breath. Kid might need more motivation and stimulation to trigger any professional response. Okay, now the two of you try again. Shiori and Naruto got into position again, and Kasumi signaled them to start. Shiori charged at Naruto again, and she wasn't going to be affected by that maneuver twice. When she got close enough to punch Naruto, he stepped aside in the opposite direction this time. Anticipating another sneak attack, Shiori swung her left leg to get him in his side. Naruto countered with a sweeping kick that hit her right leg and knocked her on her backside since she lost all balance just then. Kasumi, for the first time, looked impressed. Not bad. Not professional, but he does seem to have a knack for catching his opponent off guard and unaware, which is a perfect trait for a ninja to possess. Or maybe he's just gotten lucky. Better try a few more times. Okay, so far so good, but we need to see more. Try again. This continued for the next 2 hours. In that time, Naruto didn't get a scratch on him, while Shiori got a little worn out, and a few grass stains on her clothes. And yet Naruto hadn't actually punched her yet. She did get a few good hits in, but Naruto showed he had the endurance of a Jounin-level ninja. Too bad he had yet to display any strategy, or style fitting even a genin. Kasumi finally clapped her hands together. Alright, enough, stop, she ordered. Naruto and Shiori halted their attacks and stood to listen to their sensei. Kasumi placed her hands behind her back and she stared at both of her students. Well then, it is clear that Naruto can do some basic hand-to-hand combat. Shiori scoffed. Yeah, let's take him over to the academy. The cadets on the playground fight better than this clown. Naruto looked over at her with a frown. Hey, I knocked you down, didn't I? Shiori looked over at her teammate, her expression unchanged. That was luck and nothing more. If this had been real combat, and I your enemy, I could have taken you down before you even had time to blink, she said in a deadly serious voice. Kasumi then interrupted before it could continue. You are most likely right, Shiori-san. However, we are a team, not enemies. Now then, I would like to try something a bit different now. Different? How? Shiori asked. Let's step it up a notch, Kasumi said with a grin. No weaponry, but now I will allow you to use jutsu, both of you. Let's see what responses this triggers. Shiori wickedly smirked at Naruto. Now this is going to hurt. Naruto meanwhile just looked worried, since he was drawing a complete blank on this subject. Crap, I've got nothing, and Kasumi-sensei should know that. Is she trying to turn me into a punching bag here? Without waiting for him to be ready, Shiori made 3 hand signs and called out a jutsu name. Water style, water bullet jutsu. An orb of water shot out of her mouth and hit Naruto right in the chest, making him lose his balance and fall down. Ha! Got you. Naruto immediately got back on his feet. That was no stronger than a water balloon. You're going to have to do better than that. You want better? Try this. Shiori barked back, starting a new set of hand signs. Water style, Kappa Lily Jutsu. She then spat out several smaller water bullets at him, adjusting her aim before each one. Basically, it was a water version of the Phoenix Flower Jutsu, and had similar effects to the water bullet jutsu, just with more in quick succession. Naruto dodged all but one water ball, and didn't fall down. You call that better? Getting me wet? Well, if I had my sword on me, you'd be in pieces. And I'm still learning too, you know. Shiori responded. I do got something that should surprise you, but I was hoping to see you try something first. Naruto shrugged. Sorry. I told you girls I don't know anything. At least not off the top of my head. Maybe you should show him your trump card, Shiori-san, Kasumi stated. If nothing else, it'll show this newbie what to expect from you if he gets out of line. Shiori nodded in understanding, and readied for her best jutsu. Water style, Sea Snake Jutsu. Out of the ground around herself emerged 3 anaconda-sized snakes made purely of water and some dirt that got washed up into the jutsu. 2 immediately slithered through the air to constrict Naruto and looked ready to bite off his head at any signal, while the third remained near Shiori in a defensive way. Just try and get out of that before I let them finish. Naruto felt afraid, and saw his sensei was just standing there watching him. Am I gonna die? I can't handle this. Someone help me. Then everything went black to him. For the briefest of moments, Naruto felt as if the universe itself had just stopped. Only a second ago Shiori had been coming at him with her jutsu, and now he was nowhere. Well, not exactly nowhere. He was somewhere, but it felt like nowhere. He was in a void. A void of empty darkness. There was no light, yet he could see clearly. It was not cold, and yet his body shivered. Hello, he called out. Is anyone there? His voice did not even echo. Naruto began to look around wildly, trying to learn his location. But there was nothing at all, just an empty void. Oh Kami, I'm dead. Oh great Kami, I died, didn't I? I died, and this is hell, Naruto said to himself. He was about to have a complete nervous breakdown when… No, little one, you are not in hell. However, sometimes it feels like it is. A powerful feminine voice said from behind. Naruto's entire body froze instantly. His eyes were wide with shock and fear. Naruto turned around slowly, and what he saw filled him with terror and dread. He was staring into a giant set of glowing red eyes. Well, child, aren't you going to say anything? It asked. Naruto tried to say something, but no words came out of his mouth. The red eyes narrowed a bit. A bit shocked and confused, aren't we? Well, let us change that. Then, as if someone had turned on a switch, the darkness was replaced with powerful light. Naruto had to blink several times in order to see properly. And even after that he blinked several more times to make sure what he was seeing was real. Naruto was looking at a giant, no, an enormous red fox. A fox that had to the size of a mountain. This fox was behind the bars of a cage, and from behind that cage the fox stared back at Naruto. Come on now, boy, say something. I know you can, she said with a large fang-filled grin. Naruto then said the only thing that came to his mind. Who are you? He asked. His voice stuttered a bit. The female fox laughed. It was a dark, loud laugh that seemed to shake the ground that Naruto stood upon. Who am I? Who am I? I am the Kyuubi. I am the nine-tailed fox, the most powerful being alive, the embodiment of raw power. And I also am your guardian, Naruto, she said, and her smile seemed to grow. Why, you know who I am? The fox nodded her massive head. I have been with you since the day you were spawned and brought forth into this pitiful world. Which is why I am going to help you. That caught Naruto's attention. Then you must know about my past. You can tell me who I really am. The blonde's voice was filled with great hope. The fox nodded again. I could indeed tell you, young one, but I will not. Naruto's hope fell. But you just said. You are not ready to know about your past yet. I have been watching your progress in this place, and you have a great opportunity here. I intend to see that you take it. Naruto was completely confused. Here he was talking to a giant fox who knew about his past. Part of him felt that should not listen to her, that he should leave. If only he knew how. However, that part of him was the minority, while the majority was more interested in listening to what this creature had to say. And how can you do this? The fox's smile grew even wider. I offer you power and knowledge. Knowledge of jutsus that you know before you lost your memories, as well as several that you will be completely new to you to motivate you more. And power, I shall give some of my chakra, from which even a tiny bit could reduce a great mountain to a pile of dust. She said with great deal of pride in that last sentence. Naruto could feel a bit of excitement forming inside of him. If he could learn how to do jutsus, then he could become a stronger member of his team. And he could show Shiori that he knew how to go on the offensive. What must I do in order to achieve this? He asked as he walked a bit closer to the bars, now unafraid. The Kyuubi turned her eyes and Naruto followed her gaze. Something was coming out of ground outside the cage. It was a large scroll. Naruto walked over to the scroll, he picked it up and opened it. That, my young kid, is the contract of the foxes. If you make a mark on it with your blood, you shall wield more power than you could possibly imagine. And as a bonus, in time I shall return your memories to you. Little by little, to avoid overwhelming your mind. More benefits will come, but I'll tell you about that later. Naruto simply stared at the contract. Now, do we have a deal? The Kyuubi asked. Naruto was silent for a moment, then he looked at the fox with a smile on his face. He brought his thumb up to mouth and then he bit down hard, drawing blood. You got a deal, fox, Naruto said, and he made his mark. Splendid. By the way, for your own well-being, it won't be a good idea to go around telling anyone about me. It will only cause problems for you. Don't even tell your team unless I say otherwise. I guess, Naruto answered. Now I'll give you some knowledge to start off with. This should help you with your new partners. Show them what you've got, which is actually only a fraction of all I can give you. Everything then faded away to white for Naruto. To everyone else, it looked like Naruto was zoned out for a few seconds. Kasumi was worried, but Shiori took it as a sign he was in awe of her might and procked to give him a taste of it. It wouldn't be lethal, lest Kasumi be upset, but it should get the point of the jutsu across to him. One water snake engulfed his head while the other bit onto his abdomen, which should have been quite painful. In that instance, Naruto turned into a stray log, catching Kasumi and Shiori by surprise. Wow, so he knows the substitution. Hopefully now he can do more. All three water snakes faded away back to ordinary water as Shiori tried to see where her new teammate was. Where are you hiding? She shouted. Wait, when the hell did he even move? No one is that fast? All of a sudden 100 Narutos came out of hiding and surrounded both girls. You wouldn't really expect an enemy to answer that question, would you? They all asked simultaneously. What the hell? Shiori and Kasumi asked. The clones swarmed Shiori, who couldn't defend against them all. She got some of them to vanish, realizing in the process that they weren't illusions but real. When the smoke cleared, she was being held to the ground with her arms pinned behind her by two clones, two more pinning down her legs, and another pinning down her neck with his foot, only applying the smallest amount of pressure to do so. You give up? Shiori gritted her teeth, hating what she was about to admit. Fine this time. But I'll win next time, she told him. Naruto, you're just full of surprises, aren't you? Kasumi asked herself with a satisfied grin. Within the walls of Konoha, plenty of people were in a good mood. However, those that weren't were starting to seek each other out for the sake of decent company. This was mostly the remainder of the rookies that were still in Konoha, which was now just Sakura, Kiba, Shino, Niji, Lee, Tenten, Ino, Shikamaru, and Chuji. At first, everyone but the pink-haired Kunoichi were together outside the academy to mourn their fallen friend Naruto the day after they heard the news. And currently, only Lee, Chuji, and Ino were shedding tears for him, but the others looked no less saddened. They sat down in the area where they would play during their breaks from class, specifically near the swing they knew Naruto would go to when depressed and lonely. Somehow it made them feel a little connected to him again. They said nothing, having no idea what to say, but inside their heads their minds were going a mile a minute. Kiba was sitting at the base of a tree with Akamaru on his lap. The dog Nin reflected on his small friendship with Naruto back when they were younger. Technically they never stopped being friends. Missions and team exercises just got in the way of their free time, and personally Kiba didn't want to spend each afternoon at the same ramen stand, even if he thought the girl that worked there was hot. Kiba wasn't always the nicest friend to Naruto, what with the taunting and everything when they were kids, but they did have fun together at times. And he didn't fret over his lose to Naruto in the Chunin preliminaries either. The blonde beat him fair and square, even if Kiba preferred to forget how he did it. Shino stood against the tree next to his teammate, looking as stoic as ever, but his shoulders were obviously slumped and his sunglasses were down a bit, making his eyes somewhat visible. Naruto was never someone he would call a friend, but he was an admirable ally and someone who made a mission memorable for sure. Probably the most memorable one by far was the one where Shino had been given a drug that made him laugh uncontrollably. Naruto showed a lot more strength than Shino gave him credit for in his role on that mission, and even though the blonde needed some convincing to keep the bug user's behavior a secret, he had done so. Since then he had more faith in Naruto as a comrade. He was one of the few people Shino could completely trust. Neji leaned against the wall of the building, trying to look dignified while lamenting the loss of his fellow shinobi. His first impression of Naruto had not been a favorable one. He only won against Kiba because of chance circumstance, and against himself because Neji underestimated his limitations. But in retrospect, those were important things shinobi needed to consider. Naruto reminded the Hyuga that ninjas shouldn't rely on talent alone, and that you shouldn't give up just because the odds aren't in your favor. Also, Neji could admit that many of the missions he went on recently with Naruto may not have gone as smoothly as liked but always got the intended result, so he had to respect Naruto's contribution. Lee stood next to the swing set, looking at the ground with his fists balled up, as if ready to hit something. He had always been an emotional guy, seeing no reason to mask himself unless it was vital for the mission or something. Lee respected Naruto because he was a kindred soul, a dead last that few gave much hope for but strove to prove that even a dead last can have great accomplishments. Naruto had almost as much spirit as Lee did, and the taijutsu enthusiast knew he could trust Naruto with his life at any time. To hear Naruto didn't have a life anymore had a big impact on him. Tenten stood beside Lee and patted his shoulder in an effort to calm his troubled self, a single tear in the corner of her own eye. She understood his pain well. After all, she and Lee were orphans just like Naruto, so they had a common bond none of their friends could relate to. Tenten knew Naruto when they were younger, and once she got adopted she invited him over for dinner once in a while. Fortunately, her adoptive parents didn't have a problem with him. In fact, the only reason they didn't adopt him too was because they couldn't afford to support 2 kids, or at least that was the excuse they gave. So in a way Naruto might have been her brother under different circumstances, so even if he wasn't, the pain of his death hurt no less. Ino sat on one of the swings, staring off into space with wet eyes. She didn't understand at all why she was crying for the blonde. She never really liked him, but nor did she hate him. She admitted at times he was funny and lively, and could make her laugh. His eyes were soothing and his hair was exotic, even if his choice in attire was grotesque. And his behavior often proved irritating, but all the others complimented his skills when on missions. She personally had the least amount of experience with him on missions, so she couldn't say for sure what she thought of his abilities, but she did admit what he showed in the Chunin exams made her believe he did have more going for him than she first suspected. So even though she didn't understand why she was crying, she did know she would miss him. Shikamaru sat down at the base of a tree next to Kiba opposite Shino, looking at the clouds in an attempt to find peace. It wasn't coming, and that was really troublesome. He remembered the mission to retrieve Sasuke, and how much Naruto risked to try and get it done. Shikamaru found it difficult to believe that Naruto could survive that, but not whatever it was that got him this time. Maybe Naruto's luck finally ran out. He didn't want to sound apathetic to the blonde's death, because he was anything but he did want to try and accept it. Hopefully he could skill over the other steps when it came to dealing with death, steps like denial, anger, depression, and bargaining. He saw the others were all in various stages already. Chuji sat next to Shikamaru with an open bag of chips but eating slowly for once. He had a few good memories with Naruto, mainly sneaking out to get a bite to eat. The best memories were the eating contests they had together when the meal was ramen, the only time someone outside his own family actually would and could give him that challenge. He remembered the time he, Naruto, and Sakura had to make ramen to help out the Ichirakus, and the time he, Naruto, and Hinata helped out the princess of Land of Greens. All good times, and they did more than just remind him of Naruto. "Hey, has anyone seen Hinata or Sakura?" Chuji asked all of a sudden, being the first to notice their absence. The others looked around, suddenly aware of the lack of 2 kunoichi. Kiba sniffed and spoke up. "Sakura's on her way this way. I don't smell Hinata-chan though." Ino got up and walked towards the street, where she saw her at-times friend. "Hey Sakura," she said calmly with a light wave. Sakura headed her way, her eyes red from crying so much, and noticed similar eyes on the platinum blonde girl. "Hi Ino, glad I found you. I really need a friend now." "We're all here. Come on," Ino told her. Both girls noticed the lack of their insulting nicknames from the other, which told a lot about their mood. They walked back to their friends. "Hi guys. I take it you all heard the news." They all nodded. "Where's Hinata?" "I figured she'd be the first one here." "We're not sure. Maybe it hurts too much to be out in public now, Shino suggested. She took the revelation hard and needs time to heal. His voice still as empty as ever. I'm not so sure, Niji interjected. I heard from her father that she's gone away for a time to, in his words, finally become useful. What does that mean? Ino asked. I don't know, but I'm sure she's working through her own grief as well. Sakura sighed. Guys, I just found out something about Naruto I think you need to know. Everyone turned to look at her. Only problem is I'm not sure I can tell you just yet. My mother did say there was a law about it, so I'm going to ask Tsunade Shurso about it soon. Everyone caught how she choked when she mentioned her mother. A law against Naruto? Lee said, shocked by the concept. He, like many others, knew that Naruto had not been the most liked amongst the villagers. Their current behavior was glaring proof that they had something against him. But a law passed against him specifically, now that sounded insane. As insane as people celebrating the death of a 13-year-old. What law is this? Niji asked. Sakura was about to open her mouth when seemingly out of nowhere Tsunade appeared. I shall answer that, the female Hokage said. Every ninja there gave a brief bow to their village's leader. Tsunade-sama, what brings you here? Tenten asked. I've been keeping an eye on especially all of you. I'm not that surprised by the civilians' reactions to the news, but your own were the ones I most wanted to observe. Why us? Shino asked. The fifth Hokage looked at each one of teens, closed her eyes and sighed. Ignorance is bliss, I guess, and for 13 years we have kept the younger generations of this village, i.e. you and anyone younger, in the dark about a topic that was best left closed, but now it is time to know the truth. Nobody but Sakura knew what she was talking about, so while she sadly looked away they listened intently. 13 years ago the fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato, battled against the Kyuubi. And the fourth won that battle. He destroyed the Kyuubi at the cost of his own life. Tsunade told them. Everyone but Sakura had a confused look upon their face, for this was basic knowledge they had been told when they were children. She might as well have been telling them the story of Santa Claus. Tsunade sighed once more, as if this was difficult for her to admit, and then continued. That story is a lie. The Kyuubi was actually not killed. Instead, to ensure it never could hurt anyone again, it was sealed inside the body of a newborn baby. Uzumaki Naruto. In that moment right there, for 9 teens, it seemed as if the entire world had suddenly gone dead silent. Rest assured, Naruto and the Kyuubi were and always have been 2 separate entities. Kyuubi was just trapped inside Naruto, unable to do anything to him. The fourth Hokage designed the seal specifically to ensure the demon couldn't control Naruto, but Naruto could make use of its chakra when he needed it. Tsunade continued. However, the vast majority of the people in this village felt that Naruto either was extremely likely to be controlled by the fox at any moment, or he was the actual fox from the very beginning. She paused to grit her teeth and continued angrily. Apparently a bunch of civilians, clan figures, and some shinobi believe they know sealing better than the fourth himself. She saw each one of them absorb this information, and could only hope they took it the right way. Kiba looked like he had just discovered Akamaru had been a cat the whole time. Shino didn't look any different, but the buzzing of his hive gradually got louder. Niji hadn't been this surprised since he read his father's statement to him after the Chunin exam finals. Lee looked like he was about to have a total emotional breakdown, and either shout in anger or punch something until it break. Tenten thought she had run out of tears, but this revelation just proved her wrong. Ino brought her hands to her face, trying to contain a new sob she felt brewing. Shikamaru, for the first time in a long time, felt the urge to hit something. Chuji dropped his bag of chips and felt like vomiting. Sakura just looked down and cried a little more. Shikamaru spoke first. Hokage-sama, you mean to tell us that people here believe that Naruto, the same Naruto that could barely pass the academy, that fought to protect Konoha during the Oto/Suna invasion rather than help destroy it, that constantly strived to become Hokage himself one day, was a mountain-sized city-destroying 9-tailed beast in human form? Tsunade sadly nodded. Yes. Sounds stupid, doesn't it? It's beyond stupid. It's downright inhumane, Lee said. Tsunade nodded again. Yeah, it is. The third tried to give Naruto a normal life, by passing a law that said no one would be allowed under penalty of death to say a word of this to their children. Even Naruto didn't know his condition until the day he became a ninja, from what he told me. Wait a minute. Sakura interrupted. You mean Naruto had to go through the mistreatment and loneliness without even knowing why until he was 12? The slug Sannin nodded again. Yes. It must have been really hard on him, growing up with no family, no friends because you were all told to stay away from him, no teachers who wanted him to learn anything, and everyone who claimed he should be killed or turned into a mindless weapon day after day. The words "no friends because you were all told to stay away from him" made Sakura have a headache for a moment, like something was hitting her internally. The law did not die with the third, but some people may believe it did die with Naruto. I still have to check the law books to confirm this or not. Tsunade Shosho, my mother told me about Naruto-kun being connected to the fox. Does this mean you may have to kill her? Sakura asked. Everyone caught her new reference to Naruto, and was surprised she just said something only Hinata would have said before. Even she was surprised by it. I'm sorry, Sakura, but it may come to that, Tsunade said, however she sounded a bit unsure. Hokage-sama, does Hinata-sama know of this? Niji asked. I don't know Niji. I wouldn't be surprised if she did though. Where is Hinata, by the way? Ino asked. Niji said she's not here anymore, so did you send her somewhere? I did, and she's in good hands, Tsunade answered. She looked at all of the young ninjas and sighed once again. I guess I will leave all of you to talk amongst yourselves, she said as she vanished in a puff of smoke. Everyone simply stood there in utter silence, none of them really knowing what to say until finally Shikamaru broke the silence. Damn them all. And for once he sounded genuinely angry. Damn them all, damn every last villager that's celebrating right now. Naruto did not deserve that, he did not deserve such a lonely life, Shikamaru said as he kicked a loose stone out of the ground. No wonder he smiled all of the time, he was probably masking his own pain, Niji added as he leaned against the tree. And here I thought he was just being ignorant the whole time. Well, maybe some of their fears were justified, Kiba said out of nowhere. Suddenly all eyes turned to him. How can you say that? Ino demanded. Kiba held up his hands defensively. Hey look, I remember the stories my mom told me about the Kyuubi, how it could flatten entire mountains with just a swipe of one of its tails. I mean, if such a dangerous creature was sealed inside Naruto, sure people would be afraid that it might take over his bow. However, he got no further because Lee punched the dog Nin right in his jaw. Kiba fell to the ground and Lee stood above him huffing, tears rolling down his face. Say nothing of the sort. Naruto was a good person, and he would never allow such an awful beast to take control of his body. Kiba sat up and rubbed his sore and possibly fractured jaw. He glared daggers at Lee, and when he got up looking like he was about to strike back, everyone else moved behind Lee. Kiba stared at all of them and then huffed. Whatever, I didn't say he was a bad guy, did I? But I bet if he was still alive and you all knew the truth, none of you would be acting as you are now. You would all be avoiding him like before, but with an excuse now. He spat as he turned and left, Akamaru following behind. When he left, everyone began to think. Was he right? It was one thing to think about a dead man, they would never be asked to prove anything regarding Naruto anymore. But if Naruto was still alive and if they all knew the truth, would they still be calling him a friend? Or would their views of the blonde-haired prankster turn into that of a fox demon? For that none of them could be certain. It was the first day after Hinata had left Konoha with Jiraiya to find Naruto and prove he was still alive somewhere. No actual training had occurred yet outside Hinata's normal morning routine to get her body ready for the day. She had a feeling today he would start his teachings and had used yesterday to mainly get them some distance from the village for it. Jiraiya had them stick to the road at first but now had led his new student into the woods. He eventually found a few stumps as a result of some fight long ago and sat down comfortably on one of them. Hinata, however, continued to stand. Go ahead, girl, sit down. What I've got to say may take a while, so get comfy. Hinata quietly sat on a stump and looked at him. What is it, Jiraiya-sensei? The old pervert chuckled with satisfaction. Kinda nice to have a student that gives me a respectful title again. I haven't had one of those in some time. He paused to cross his legs and rest his left elbow on his knee with his face in his left hand. Look, kid, I agreed to teach you a few things and take you on this trip per the Hokage's requests and your father's wishes. However, before I get started on that, I need to know a few things about you. Like what? My likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams? Hinata asked. Jiraiya shook his head. Not really, not unless I ask for that later. What I need to know is what you can do, what you think you can't do, what you want to accomplish, and why you want that in the first place. Hinata gently grasped Naruto's Hittite around her neck for a moment before answering. While what I can do is the basics and some of the more advanced stages of my clan style. What I can't do is the more demanding parts that require a more rigid body and heart. What I want to accomplish is earning the respect of my family and Naruto-kun, and my reasons are for love and the hope that the degradation I receive will finally stop. Jiraiya looked like he was thinking her answer over. Are you certain your affection for Naruto is as genuine as you claim it is? If I'm going to train you, I need to know for certain you are not a silly fangirl like the Uchiha had, just of a different variety. I won't waste my time on someone like that. How do I prove that to you? For one, you can tell me 2 things about Naruto that you don't like. The Toad Sannin replied. Hinata sighed and paused, as if unsure how to answer that. Well, I admit I don't think his outfit is the best choice of attire. Sure, it gives him character, but it's not good for the job. And I'm not exactly thrilled at how he indulges in ramen so much, like it's an addiction. He needs to learn to have more variety in his diet. Jiraiya smiled. Okay, so far so good. In case you didn't realize it yet, most fangirls only see good things about the ones they crush on, ignoring all unflattering characteristics. Loving someone doesn't mean you have to believe they're perfect. If you do, then what you really love is simply a belief about them, and since you admitted without trouble that you do see some flaws in Naruto, this gives your claim of love more credibility to me. Hinata smiled, and then it looked like her new sensei had more. My second question is, what makes you so certain Naruto is still alive? I have my own reasons to suspect it, but what about you? It's kind of hard to put into words exactly, she answered. But the best reason is that I don't believe that Naruto-kun could survive all that he's encountered in his life, and yet be killed by those talentless scumbags that claim to have done so. With his extra help, Naruto-kun has survived much worse. Jiraiya arched an eyebrow. Extra help? Hinata gave him a deadpan expression. I'm well aware of the Kyuubi inside him, Jiraiya-sensei. The old man was quite shocked. How exactly do you know of that? No one your age should know about that. Did he tell you? Hinata sighed and looked down. No, I found out years ago from one of the older members of my clan. You see, some of the members of my clan seem to believe that as long as they interact with their own, no one had do anything about it, even the Hokage. The whole this is clan business so but out kind of mentality? Jiraiya asked, having heard this kind of thing many times before. Exactly, Hinata answered. Anyway, a few months before I graduated from the academy, one of my clan members felt I was getting a little too interested in Naruto-kun, so he told me about the Kyuubi, but tried to portray Naruto-kun in a very bad light at the same time. The next day I asked the third Hokage about it, he asked who told me, I gave the name, and within the day he was executed. Of course he tried the approach you just mentioned, but it didn't save him, and the Hokage gave a warning to the rest of knowing Hyuga about it. He was more concerned if I would hate Naruto-kun or not, but I told him I wanted to decide for myself if he was a threat, and that I'm sure the fourth knew what he was doing. Jiraiya smiled. If only everyone else thought that way. The sage then got his serious face back on again. Okay, so you know his biggest secret but don't fear him, that's good. You admit flaw in him, so your love isn't really an obsession. So for now, I'll accept your feelings as genuine and will teach you. For your first lesson, Jiraiya made several hand signs. There was a large puff of smoke, and what appeared was a giant green toad. Hinata took a step back at seeing the great thing. What is that? She asked shakily. Jiraiya let out a laugh, and then he patted the toad on its slimy head. This, my dear apprentice, is the messenger toad, which I summoned to bring you this. He snapped his fingers. The toad's mouth suddenly began to bulge, and then it opened its mouth, and its long thick tongue stretched out, holding a giant scroll which Jiraiya took. Behold the contract of the toads, which if one signs their name in blood upon, then said person shall have the ability to summon toads to do their bidding, he said as he unrolled it and laid it across the ground. Hinata bent down and stared at the scroll. At the very bottom were names of all the people who had made the contract with the toads. The 3 most recent names were Jiraiya, the 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato, and the final name was Uzumaki Naruto. Hinata looked up at the old hermit, who nodded his head. The Hyuga heiress then brought her thumb to her mouth, bit down onto it, and drew blood. With her thumb properly bleeding, she then made her mark and wrote her name onto the contract. The moment she did that, the toad's tongue shot out and curled around the contract. It then pulled it back into its mouth and vanished. Now you are a toad summoner, like myself and Naruto. By doing the proper hand signs with a sacrifice of blood, you can summon toads to assist you. They make decent trackers, defenders, and pack a mean punch in the right conditions. I'm going to get you working on successfully summoning them. To help inspire you, Naruto's first successful summon was the boss toad Gamabunta, who helped the 4th. And he did it in 1 day. Hinata smiled, and paid close attention to the needed set of hand signs. Can we use the toads to find Naruto-kun, Jiraiya-sensei? He nodded as he showed her the summoning method. I already have them on it. And long as he's alive and under the contract, they can find him anywhere. That brought a smile to Hinata's face, knowing that her new sensei was on top of searching for Naruto. Then Jiraiya clapped his hands together. Alright then, let us try some summoning then, shall we? Hinata nodded, then bit her thumb, performed all of the correct hand signs, and placed her hands onto the ground. Summoning jutsu. There soon appeared a large puff of smoke. What the hell? A loud booming voice called out. Jiraiya's eyes widened. There, in the middle of the woods, as large and in charge as always, was the boss toad Gamabunta. Geez, what is it with kids these days? How are they able to make such large summons? He asked himself, as he attempted to move before the chief toad saw him. Gambunta swirled one of his massive eyes towards the Sannin. Jiraiya! The mighty toad's voice boomed as the old man came to a frightened halt. Why have you summoned me here? The old hermit held up his hands. Not me, I didn't summon you, he said as he took several steps back. I did, sir. Hinata called up to the boss toad. Huh! Gambunta turned his head and stared down at girl. He lowered himself down even further and looked at the Hyuga heiress, who could see her reflection in his eye. You look like a Hyuga. I never really liked your clan. Your clan is as arrogant as those damned Uchihas, he said as he blew a puff of smoke at Hinata. Hinata coughed a few times and fanned the smoke away from her. I will admit that my clan does have a few problems. But I am still the one that summoned you. The mighty toad narrowed his eye. And what does that mean to me, child? Hinata was caught off guard by that one, but she answered with as much confidence as she could muster in the face of such a large creature. It means that I am your master. Gamabunta stared at Hinata in silence for a moment, and then he pulled himself up and began to laugh. Ha ha ha, my master, he said comically. When he finished his laugh, he looked back down at the Hyuga. Listen, girl, I will tell you what I told that blonde gaki. I don't take orders from children. I barely take them from that perverted fool who calls himself a sage, the toad said as he pointed his webbed finger at Jiraiya. Hinata looked over at her sensei. Pervert? She asked. Jiraiya's eyes darted back and forth. It's a joke between friends, he said with a fake laugh. I'd better not lose her respect too. Gambunta blew out another large cloud of smoke. However, since you seem to be more level-headed than my other summoner, I will make you the same offer I made the boy. If you agree to be my servant, then I promise as your master to come your aid when you summon me, he said with a smirk. Are you the only toad I can summon? Hinata asked. No, you should be able to summon much smaller ones too, Jiraiya told her. To be honest, that's actually what I was expecting from you instead of the big guy on your first try. Even the fourth couldn't do that, and not even Naruto if you count all those tadpoles he summoned before Bunta. Hinata tried to give the giant amphibian the most eye contact she could do from her position. That sounds good to me, sir. I don't really think I could be a good master to you anyway. Wow, a summoner with a sense of humility. I like her despite her clan. Okay, I recognize you as a summoner. If you don't mind, I'd like to go home. And one more thing, girl, why don't you ask this pervert here to read one of his books or take you researching? Then you'll see what I mean, Gamabunta said with a smirk before vanishing. Jiraiya palmed his face. Crap, Bunta set me up. Damn toad. But if I don't do my research, I can't afford this trip. Is something wrong, Jiraiya-sensei? Hinata asked. No, just ignore what he just told you. That's my first order as your sensei, he told her sternly. Now let's see if we can get you able to summon something smaller. Deep below, in an underground facility in another country, Uchiha Sasuke trained under the tutelage of his master, the snake Sannin Orochimaru. Orochimaru stood and watched as the last of the Uchiha built up a great deal of chakra in his hand, forming the Chidori, and then attacked a large stone slab. Now, while most ninja attacks could easily break stone, this particular slab had been infused with a great deal of chakra, making it impossible to break with any conventional jutsus. No, it required a larger amount of chakra than normal in order to even cause a small crack. Basically nothing less than a jounin or maybe an enthusiastic chunin could get any results. Sasuke, with his curse mark active and the flame pattern on his skin, slammed the Chidori into the slab, watching the blue lightning blade crackle against the stone until an explosion happened. The Uchiha was thrown back onto the hard floor, where he took several deep breaths before he looked up, only to find that the slab barely had a dent in it. The raven-haired teen hit the floor with his fist, his skin returning to normal. Damn it! He cursed as he picked himself up off the ground. Orochimaru let out a few dark chuckles as he watched Sasuke's frustration. The Uchiha spun around and stared at his sensei. What's so funny? Your teachings are failing and the curse mark is no longer working. I need more power. The curse mark is working just fine, boy. The failing rests on you. You rely too much on your rage to activate it, the pale Sannin explained with a sinister grin. Sasuke scoffed. You're the one who told me that rage was used to activate the mark in the first place. Orochimaru stepped out of the shadows, one finger raised as if to indicate what he was about to say. Rage is indeed a common and useful way to activate the curse mark. However, it is not the only way, and you rely solely on that emotion alone to do it when you could use others that may prove more effective for you. It's like using only kunai when a shuriken can do the job too, he said in a tone barely above a whisper. After a while, the power you receive from rage becomes like normal chakra flow, weak and useless. Sooner or later the anger will wane, and you just can't get as much motivation from it anymore. Hence your current predicament. You simply need more motive now. Sasuke growled. Then what else can I use? The snake Sannin's smile widened. Pleasure. I can see it in your eyes how much you enjoy the pleasure of battle, that you get a thrill from every attack you use on your opponent. So use that and you shall once again have access to your full power. Sasuke scoffed again. And then suddenly appearing behind Orochimaru was his most loyal servant Kabuto, who kneeled and bowed his head. Forgive my intrusion, Orochimaru-sama. However, I have just received word from our spy in the Leaf Village. Orochimaru turned and stared at Kabuto with his yellow snake eyes as the medic rose up from the ground. What news is that? Did the old crone Tsunade finally drink herself to death? He said with a laugh. Kabuto shook his head. No, my lord, however you are close. Uzumaki Naruto is dead. That caused Orochimaru to raise a brow and Sasuke to turn his head sharply. What? The Uchiha asked. He was apparently killed on an away mission in Wave Country. From what I understand, Konoha is apparently celebrating his death. Well, this is good information. The nine-tailed brat is dead, so the Akatsuki will never be able to get a hold of his power. And the line of the Uzumaki and Namikes is finally extinct. Well, this does add a great deal in our favor. Would you not agree, Sasuke-kun? Orochimaru said as he looked over at his pupil. However, Sasuke stood there unmoving. His eyes completely empty and blank, and then his mouth twitched upward into a smile. And then came a laugh, a long, loud and deep laugh that echoed across the whole underground cavern. He's dead, he said with what sounded like triumph. The Baka is finally dead. Nothing could hide Sasuke's joy at the fact that his blonde rival was finally dead. And then he turned his attention back to the stone slab, his mark now active again. Orochimaru and Kabuto watched with interest as Sasuke formed another Chidori in his hand and then launched himself at his target. And the moment his attack touched the slab, Sasuke was not thrown back. He stood and they watched as the stone slab crumbled into rubble. Sasuke's smile was only matched by Orochimaru's at this success. Back in Kiri, Naruto was with his new team adjusting to his new life. First thing, both girls agreed that Naruto needed to wear something else. He was reluctant, since that orange and black jumpsuit, along with the green gemstone necklace, were the only things from his old lifestyle he had left. So he compromised that even though he wouldn't destroy his original clothing, he would wear something else in public and just keep his old clothes stowed away as a memento. Right now Naruto was in a clothing store changing room with several things he picked out while Kasumi and Shiori waited. Kasumi smiled at her older student. I'm glad you're learning to connect to people again, Shiori-san. The young girl sighed. It's no big deal. Still, I'm glad, Kasumi repeated. After all, how can you hope to achieve your dream if you never learn to be part of a team again? Shiori's shoulders slumped. I always figured Hikaru-kun and I would do it together. When he was killed, she turned to look at her sensei, one tear in her left eye. I was actually ready to give up on it. Kasumi tilted her head in confusion. Then why did you stay at Kunoichi? Shiori shrugged. I didn't have any other ideas. Besides, I didn't want to lose you too, sensei. The older woman put her arm around her student's shoulders. I just hope you can strive to fulfill your goals still. I'd love to see you get what you want. Maybe Hikaru-kun can't help you anymore, but maybe Naruto-kun can. Shiori chuckled. Don't hold your breath on that one, sensei. How does this look? Naruto nervously asked as he approached both girls. The two looked at him and were a little impressed. Naruto was wearing a gray t-shirt with a single black stripe going horizontally just under his pecs, a pair of loose-fit dark gray slacks with 2 pockets on each leg to hold things in, brown boots, red gloves with a blue Kiri symbol on the back of both hands, and black elbow pads. Not bad, Naruto-kun, Kasumi said to her new student. The colors should be good for blending in with the environment here and many other dark places, but the ensemble itself is also socially acceptable and comfortable. Shiori just nodded. But she added more when Kasumi and Naruto gave her expectant looks. Looks better than before, honestly. Who wears orange? Hey, what's wrong with orange? Naruto complained. So many things I'll have to send you a list later. She joked. Alright, we'll get that and a spare set for now. When you get mission pay you'll have to get some more your own. Kasumi told the young boy, as she was the one who was paying for this shopping trip since the Mizukage wouldn't. After this we'll get you some practice weapons and real weapons, and something for dinner. Are there any good ramen shops here? Naruto asked. Yeah, I know one. Shiori added. I eat there all the time. Tomorrow we're going to find out what else you like to eat. But for today, we'll settle for a quick tour of the village, Kasumi stated as she led them to the register. Sadly, she had to pay for this herself since the Mizukage said this wasn't her responsibility. Kasumi could handle it, but still the fact that Mei was willing to enlist his services but not provide him with much for the job bothered her. It felt rather unfair. They walked out of the store after the purchase with Naruto holding the bags. Wasn't that a bit expensive, Kasumi-sensei? He asked. Yeah, but it's okay. I'm not the wealthiest woman in Land of Water, but I'm not the poorest either. She told him to soothe his worries. Where do you get your money from? Your ninja job? Naruto asked. Some of it, but not all. A good chunk of my income comes from my clan's treasury. Naruto arched an eyebrow. Your clan? He said it like he was hearing the concept of a clan for the first time, which for all basic purposes he was. Yeah, it's my family and extended relatives. My clan is actually one of several in Kiri. Is everyone here part of a clan? The blonde asked, then turned to face Shiori. Are you part of one? Not really. Mine almost counts, but we don't have the numbers to qualify for clan status. Clan status? Naruto asked. Allow me to explain how clans work in a ninja village, Naruto-kun, Kasumi said as she took a seat on a bench, her two students following suit. This may apply to all other villages, maybe with some slight variations for some, but what I'm going to tell you is the ground rules for what makes a clan qualify as a clan here in Kirigakure. Now, a clan is defined as a large family of shinobi that have a set fighting style unique to themselves that can be passed down from one generation to the next, by either genetic or learned means. They must remain loyal to the village and serve it, as well as train all capable members into being working shinobi. Not to say that every member must become one, but all that can should at least try unless there's a medical or psychological reason why they shouldn't. Kasumi stopped to take out a water bottle she had strapped to her hip and took a long sip. Naruto noticed she drank like she was almost dying of thirst, and this wasn't the first time he saw it happen. He also noticed she didn't have to refill it yet, but surely she didn't have more than a liter inside it. He was about to ask her about it, but she stopped drinking and continued her lesson before he could. Now there are 3 mandatory requirements for what allows a clan to qualify as one. Any clan that does is given several benefits from the village. These benefits include but are not limited to reserved land for their property and training purposes, a large treasury of money to support themselves in hard times and occasional spending needs, and a way to get an audience with the Mizukage when needed. Although that last one still requires the Mizukage to have spare time on her own end. And of course with these benefits come responsibilities. These include but are not limited to total loyalty to Kiri and only Kiri, securing the village's safety, providing a service for it, and the occasional sacrifice from the clan treasury during hard economic times in the village. She paused briefly in case Naruto had a question to ask. When he stayed silent, she continued. The first requirement a clan must meet is the most important one, the possession of a unique fighting style. Many fighting styles and jutsu for ninja use are public domain and can be learned and used by anyone. But some fighting styles and jutsus are the exclusive property of a family that make it their own and won't share it with others. It may sound selfish, but it gives them an advantage on the battleground by having their movements be hard to read, and it gives their children extra training before they become genin. Also sometimes it's a genetic thing, and the reason they keep it to themselves is because no one else can use it. Do you have your own style? Naruto asked. Kasumi nodded. Of course, but I'll tell you more about it later. Now, as I was saying, the fighting style can be any type, but it must be able to be passed from parent to children to the child's children, and so on. Use for one generation is not good enough. It can be passed down genetically, making it a Kekkei Genkai, or taught to the child by the parent, making it a clan specialty. Kiri has a preference for the second type. The second requirement is service to the village, like I said earlier. The Jounin continued. Naturally, loyalty to the village is a must, but there's more to it than that. Members of a clan need a source of income to keep their treasury from drying out, so they need jobs to give them money. But not everyone can have missions all the time, or the village would be defenseless. So they solve that problem by having jobs within the village too. Some clans own businesses, some run errands for the village like patrols and trade runs, and some put their ninja skills to use for public services, like medic needs. My clan, the Midorigami, Make money by owning the public baths and hot springs here people like to go to. FYI, tell them you're my student and you'll get a discount there. Thanks, Naruto said. Kasumi shifted in her spot to get a bit more comfortable. The third and final requirement is a suitable number of clan members all bearing the clan name. Clans by definition are large, with more than one family making them up. Generally, the minimum number of members is 30, with more than one generation of family members being alive and active. Sometimes exceptions are made, like when a clan suffers a great tragedy that lowers their numbers. Larger numbers are better because it reduces the risk of inbreeding or needing to acquire new blood, which could possibly compromise the next generation's skills and security. Such risks are small but still better not taken. That last one's the reason my family doesn't count, Shiori added, gaining Naruto's attention. We have our own fighting style and business, but few numbers. Why? Naruto asked, but regretted it when he saw the pained look on her face. I'd rather not say. Anyway, Kasumi added, regaining the blonde's focus and avoiding any potential problems between her students. That's how clans work here in Kiri and to a point in other villages. Not every shinobi comes from a clan, but that doesn't mean they're inferior in any way. So even though you don't come from a clan, Naruto-kun, at least that we know of, you'll still be capable of learning to be a great shinobi if you put all your heart into it. Naruto just had a thought spring up. Is it possible I am part of a clan and they're trying to find me? Yes, it's possible, but not definite. Your family could be anyone, but for now you'll have to make do without. Sorry. Naruto sadly nodded. But at least you'll have a name to use, and us for company. Maybe more when you meet the other genin. What name will you be using? Shiori asked. The Mizukage assigned me the surname Yumitora, he answered. Me because I was found at sea and Tora because I was wearing orange and black, kinda like a tiger. I guess that's fitting, the redhead replied. Anyone still hungry? I'd really like some ramen. Me too, Naruto added. Kasumi smiled. Something tells me these two will get along just fine. Mei was in her office with Ao discussing something rather important. So what did you find, Ao-san? The cycloptic Jounin pulled a scroll out of his pocket and tossed it to the red-headed Mizukage. Mei caught the scroll with her right and opened it up. The scroll itself was a collection of bits and pieces of information that all intertwined with each other. A birth certificate, the surname blacked out, police reports, a personal message from the third Hokage of Konoha, and several statements from a few ninjas. Mei noticed that several words and phrases had been highlighted and circled, such as demon, spawn, or fox. The Mizukage set the scroll down on her desk and looked at Ao, who stood as quiet and still as a statue. Care to explain all of this, Ao-san? She asked and gestured for him to speak. Ao nodded. Yes, ma'am, through one of my sources I was able to get the information that you see before you. I know it is not complete straightforward intel, however once I went through all of it I was able to deduce which of the tailed beasts Naruto-san is. Mei leaned forward a bit. And? Ao licked his lips and said point blank. The QB. Mei's thin brow arched. She did not say a word as she leaned back into her chair. The QB is dead, Ao-san. The fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato killed it 13 years ago and he died as well, taking that beast to hell with him. There was no village in the entire ninja world that had not heard the story of how the great yellow flash had battled and killed the feared QB, the most powerful and evil of the tailed beasts. A disaster of that scale is pretty hard to cover up. Ao shook his head. Forgive me, my lady, but I must disagree with you. The fourth Hokage did not kill the QB. He apparently sealed the beast inside the body of a newborn child, Naruto-san. This boy, who apparently does go by the name Naruto, originated from Konoha apparently. Mei, who rarely showed any surprise, had her eyes actually widened slightly. You mean to tell me that the host for the most powerful and deadly of the tailed beasts is in our possession? Ao nodded yes, my lady. He could not contain the eagerness in his voice. The fifth Mizukage sat back in her chair and tapped her fingers against each other. Well, this is an interesting turn of events. Now how to proceed? Ao answered right away. I think the first thing we should do is have Naruto-san placed in special training programs, ones that will test his mental and physical strength and mold him into the perfect weapon for. Be quiet, Ao, Mei said, her voice having a deadly silk-like tone to it. The aforementioned shinobi immediately fell silent as Mei continued to talk. This matter cannot be approached in the way you describe. It was done before with Yugura-sama, and all that led to were years of dictatorship, the destruction of nearly every Kekkei Genkai of our village, many of our shinobi turning into missing nin, and an overall weakening of Kiri. No, this matter shall be handled with a more delicate and less militaristic way. How so, madam? I had been hoping to not really take a stance with this boy, to avoid any controversy of playing favorites with my ninjas. However, Naruto could be our village's future, and we won't want to risk Konoha trying to reclaim him, will we? A moment of thinking and Mei came up with a solution. Kasumi, Shiori, and Naruto sat on the stools of Shiori's favorite restaurant, which she claimed made the best ramen in the entire village. The proprietor of the ramen shop was Matsuoka Yuki, a middle-aged portly woman with graying brown hair and a kind and friendly smile to her customers. "Ah, my best patrons, good to see you both," she said happily, as she finished washing several bowls. Kasumi smiled. "Our usual Matsuoka-san." Coming right up, a bowl of chicken ramen and one shrimp. She then just seemed to notice Naruto. "Ah, and what will you have?" she asked. "3 bowls of beef ramen," Naruto said suddenly, the words feeling natural and familiar to him. Kasumi looked at the boy, wondering how he could eat that much. "Be careful, Naruto, this dinner could bankrupt me." "There is no need to worry about that," a new male voice said. All three turned around to see Ao standing there, his hands behind his back, and his usual frown present. "Ao-san, what are you doing here?" Kasumi asked. "I am here at the request of the Mizukage. She has rethought her previous decision and decided that it was wrong for her to make you provide sole financial aid for Naruto-san until he completes his first mission." From his breast pocket he produces a check and hands it to Naruto. "This is from the Lady Mei, so you may have the ability to purchase all of the items that you require." He paused to turn towards Kasumi. "You may subtract the amount from that check as compensation for your spending." Then he turned back to Naruto. "Also, Mizukage-sama has found you a suitable apartment, you may move in tonight." He hands Naruto a paper with the address and key tapped to it. Ao then nodded to the three of them and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Kasumi, Shiori, and Naruto just stared at each other for a moment. But Shiori broke the silence. "Go on, Naruto, read how much the check's for. Maybe there is enough to pay for all of dinner." Naruto looked at the check and his mouth dropped when he saw the number. It's for." Kasumi and Shiori looked at it, and together both teacher and student, their eyes wide with shock, said together 500,000 ryo? That was the equivalent of pay for completing an A-ranked mission. "I guess dinner is on me?" Mei sat in her office, a bottle of sake sitting on her table as she was looking over old records for any information on the Kyuubi that she did not already know. However, all villages' records on any tail beast that was not their own was limited. According to the information Ao had acquired, Naruto came from Konoha, but the village did not appear to want him. Ao's spy had dug deep, and revealed Konoha regarded the boy little better than a mangy animal that needed to be tamed or put down. He was listed at genin rank with some usable skills and strong enough to defeat Chunin exam candidates, but not perceptive enough to gain the rank himself. Part of the report said he at times was rumored to have access to the Kyuubi's power, but how much was inconclusive. There was an old report on an encounter between the Sanbai, the three-tailed turtle, and Kyuubi. According to record, the Sanbai had attempted to increase its domain by flooding the forests near the coastlines, where the Kyuubi had been dwelling. The fox and the turtle then battled each other for the territory, and the Kyuubi had defeated the Sanbai with great ease, causing the Sanbai to flee back into the ocean and swim out to sea, where it later made its home amongst Kiri's islands. Beyond that she had nothing else, although she doubted she would any further information. Besides, she had a good feeling that Naruto would be far better than that of Yagura. Mei remembered the tyranny of Yagura well. During his reign, Kiri had become known as the village of the Bloody Mist. Turmoil and fear ran rampant through the streets. The academy was more of a blood-soaked training ground than a school where students were forced to kill each other in one-on-one combat to the death. Later on, anyone possessing a Kekkai Genkai was put to death. Mei was lucky to survive, but the rest of her family was slaughtered. And no one dared to challenge Yagura. It was not until 3 years ago did that all change. Mei, with the support of Kiri's military, lead a successful coup against the government along with the aid of Kiri's only other-tailed beast, the Rokubi, the six-tailed slug. Mei remembered the Rokubi's host well. Utakata had been charming, a bit stoic, but he had a nice carefree attitude, especially with his bubbles. Oh, she would have loved to have gone out on a date with him, but he had been so solitude and quiet. He always vanished before she could ask. And then he simply disappeared on a mission, and never returned to Kiri. But she still fantasized about him on lonely nights, his tall thin frame that hid those muscles, his youthful pale white face, and those light golden eyes that seemed to almost glow through the mist. And he had such nice dark brown hair that reaches the base of his neck with bangs that covered the left side of his face. Mei felt her face turn red and her body hot at the memory. She let out a sigh of pleasure as she felt her hand begin to drift down. Suddenly the door opened and Ao stepped in, holding a file folder. Madam, I was wondering what you wanted me to do with. Ao just narrowly dodged the bottle of sake that smashed against the wall. Get out! Mei yelled with murderous force. The cycloptic ninja shut the door quickly, sweating bullets and his one good eye wide with terror, thinking he had just dodged death. So this is where I'm going to live? Naruto asked as he double-checked the address written down for him by the Mizukage. The building before them was only 2 stories high but was long enough for 8 apartments total. It was red with a white roof and had some ivy growing on the side. The rooms on the 2nd floor apparently came with balconies. 2 staircases could be seen near either end of the building, showing the way into 4 adjacent apartments, 2 on top and 2 below. The building was located in a pretty decent part of the village, not the richest, not the poorest, a good middle-class setting, not that far from where Kasumi lived and about 15 minutes from Shiori's home. It looks okay, Shiori unenthusiastically said, not sure what to say but feeling she had to say something. Let's go inside. See what's included and what we need to buy to make it livable, Kasumi said, sounding extra happy at the fact that Mizukage was being so generous to provide Naruto with all of that money and even a home. They entered the building together to get a good look around. A look inside the apartment, which was on the 2nd floor and at the right edge of the complex, revealed it came with a fridge, oven and stove, washer-dryer combo in a small room with little room for anything else, and a shower in the bathroom as far as utilities go. The layout of the apartment was simple. The door to enter led to a small area for people to place their shoes and a connected small closet before the main room. To the upper right of the main room was the kitchen with the dining area connecting the two. To the lower right was a hallway that connected the laundry room, another closet, and the bedroom together. Naruto and Shiori had no comments on the place, but Kasumi looked it over and voiced her plans, sounding more like an interior decorator than a ninja sensei. Okay, you need a bed of some kind. A futon should be fine since we'd have to drag it up the stairs. You'll need groceries and dining supplies such as plates, bowls, and silverware. A microwave may be a good idea and something you can put dishes to dry on since you don't have a dishwasher here. Ooh, you'll need a couch and a TV since I'm sure a boy like you will want something like that. Then maybe a few decorations to make the whole thing look nice. Or maybe we could paint the place a really nice color, maybe a dark green or a sea mist. Of course, if there's some spare money after the essentials. Naruto leaned by Shiori to whisper to her. Is she always like this? She tends to get a little eager when it comes to this kind of thing from what I've heard. It's part of why I never invited her to my home. The redhead answered, a trace of sadness heard at the end of her statement. Something wrong? Naruto asked when he detected the sorrow in his teammate tone. Shiori closed her eyes and shook her head, never actually looking at him. Never mind. Whatever was wrong, she was clearly waving it away as if it did not really matter and Naruto knew it. Okay guys, there's still plenty of time left today, so let's get the necessities first and over with, Kasumi told them, unaware of their brief conversation. Shiori-san, you can go home if you'd prefer. I won't force you to help us out here. Shiori shook her head. That's fine. I don't have to be home just yet, so I've got time. Besides, you do want me and him to get along, right? This could help us. Kasumi was silent for a few seconds. Okay, if you don't mind. Let's go, I know this really good store. In her office, a relieved Mei was looking through some recent financial reports when there was a timid knock at her door. Enter, she said as she flipped to the next page of the report, not bothering to look up. Ao entered the room, more than a bit hesitantly. Is this a good time, my lady? Or should I come back later? Mei closed the report file and looked up at Ao with a kind, sweet smile. Of course it is a fine time, my faithful Ao. Come in. The cycloptic ninja seemed a bit surprised, but nonetheless did as he was told and shut the door behind him and took a seat before her desk. I trust you delivered the check and key to Naruto? She asked as she stared intently at Ao, her eyes never wavering. Ao nodded. Yes, madam, I also stuck around to judge their reaction. They were greatly surprised. Mei nodded happily. Good, very good. I want Naruto to feel that I am a generous leader and am always seeking to help my loyal ninjas. All while she said this, her eyes never left Ao's face. Ao suddenly felt a little more scared than before. Oh, my lady, I think I should be going, he said as he started to get up only to be pushed back down by Mei, her trademark smile still pasted on her face. We are not done talking, Ao. Her voice was as cold as ice, but it was laced with eerie calmness. You saw me doing something you were not supposed to see. Mizukage-sama, I saw nothing at all. Ao stammered, his one good eye wide. That's right, Ao, you saw nothing. Because if you had seen something and had ever repeated what you saw to anyone or anything, I might just have to do something that might result in me having to look for a new military advisor. May said as she patted him on the cheek. Okay, now get going. The cycloptic ninja did not waste a single moment. He quickly moved out of the room, and as the door shut, May chuckled a little. It's just so fun to scare people. I wonder if this has something to do with why single guys run from me. Hidden away in an underground cave, standing beneath a giant statue, the leading members of the Akatsuki met, to discuss news that was seen to be spreading rapidly. Are you positive this information is correct? A man's voice asked another. The one asking was impossible to truly identify since it was actually a chakra hologram, not a flesh and blood person present, and it wasn't the only one there. The only distinguishing features of the one that just spoke were the ringed eyes he had. There were two people that were flesh and blood standing in the area. One was a young lean man with a serious battle-weary face, and the other was an older man with blue skin and a shark-like face. They were Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hashigaki, speaking to their fellow Akatsuki members. No, I'm not, Leader-sama, Itachi answered. I'm just saying what I've heard amongst the commotion in Konoha. Like I said, the rumors claim that the Kyuubi's host was killed in action not too long ago. Can this be proven? A feminine-looking hologram asked for the rest. Itachi shook his head. No. For the time being, word of mouth amongst the inhabitants is the only source of information on this claim. And with the overall attitude towards the Jinchuriki most of the citizens had, the rumors have by now already become twisted and distorted to the point of being impossible to tell fact from fiction. But the general agreement is that the boy is pronounced dead. And the masses within Konoha are celebrating this while a smaller portion is mourning himself. Itachi personally found himself sickened by the thought of how his village was acting. Granted, he had little reason to say he was any better than they were, so he couldn't fairly pass judgment. But that didn't mean he wouldn't. If Konoha didn't judge its own citizens fairly, why should he? Has the village sent any search parties out? A hologram of a middle-aged man with a ponytail asked. That I cannot confirm or deny, Itachi replied. Judging from the village's reactions, I doubt they would bother, Kisame commented. If they're celebrating, then they must have his body, which proves he's dead, right? Why else would they be so happy? Kisame-san is right. The evidence points to Uzumaki Naruto's untimely demise. A hologram that looked like a Venus flytrap stated. So what does that mean for us, Leader-sama? A hologram with one visible eye asked. If he's truly dead, then it appears ultimately all our plans are for naught. A hologram of a man with longer than normal sleek hair claimed irritably. Maybe, or maybe not, the ringed-eyed one stated, gaining all members' attentions. Kisame, don't your reports verify that the Sanbai is free somewhere within your home country? The Sharkman nodded. Yeah, I'm not sure where it is. I've heard it has moved at least twice during its free time, but has ultimately stayed away from settled areas. I'm guessing the big turtle fears being sealed up again. But it remains in the world despite the passing of its host, the leader said, more stating a fact but asking for verification at the same time in a way. Yes, Kisame answered. You suspect the same is true of the Kyuubi? Itachi asked. We must consider the possibility. With that, we can still move forward with our preparations. And what if it turns out to be a waste of time? The long-haired man asked. And what if it doesn't? The leader asked. In that case, we could be in serious trouble, the lone woman claimed. If the Kyuubi is uncontained, then it will be nearly impossible for us to capture it. The Venus flytrap image chuckled. The Kyuubi was captured before, it can be captured again. Toby can help. Toby's a good boy, the one-eyed man proclaimed, sounding rather immature in the process. The blonde-haired male sighed. Why did he have such an immature partner? Why couldn't he have been with Itachi? Now there was a guy who took his duty seriously. Not that anyone ever took Toby seriously. The acknowledged leader continued speaking. We still have less than 3 years until we can do anything with a captured tailed beast in the first place. That should give us plenty of time to track down the fox and find a way to capture it ourselves. If we're lucky, someone else will try to reseal it in another person, and we'll be able to take them instead. With all due respect, Leader-sama, I'm doubting this will be worth it, the long-haired man commented. Oh, ye of little faith, we have time to find out, the leader said before fading away. With that, the rest of the chakra holograms faded out too. At a rundown bar, the Red Dragon, a number of bandits, criminals, and missing ninjas met. They drank, gambled, and brawled. This was their regular routine. In the far back of the room, sipping sake from a cup and counting a pile of money and gold coins, was the leader of the bar's current occupants. His name was Sito, a simple businessman, in his late 30s. His short hair was light brown with some slight gray, and he was dressed in a black suit and tie. The look made him resemble a young tall gato. He was not a member of any village, hidden or otherwise, and he had no loyalties to anyone besides himself and money. And in order to increase his own finances, he sought the aid of the people in this bar, lowlifes, murderers, and mercenary ninjas who worked for the same thing he did: money, money, and more money. People came to him seeking the aid of his hired thugs, usually to pull off some heist or kill some politician that was causing a bit of problems for the criminal underworld. Suddenly the doors to the Red Dragon opened, and in stepped both Toby and Deidara. Just then the entire bar fell silent. Everyone in there knew that when someone wearing the colors of the Akatsuki came here, it meant something important. And that usually meant something bad, even by their standards. Deidara walked silently across the room, passing the crowded chairs with a type of dour demeanor that made everyone look down so to not stare at him directly in the face. Toby, however, nodded to everyone, saying hi or good to see you, which made Deidara groan inwardly. They finally made it to Sito's table, who stood there with his money on either side of him, his sake in front of him, and his hands folded neatly on the table. Like Akatsuki, he felt no need to hide who he was or what he did, at least not when authority figures were around. Gentlemen, good to see members of the Akatsuki in my establishment again. Can I offer you a drink? He offered, despite the fact that he didn't actually own the bar. That never stopped him, though. Toby seemed about to say something, but Deidara spoke first. No, we are not here on a social visit. We need the assistance of your organization and for you to get a message out to the Yakuza. You have contacts there, correct? Sito nodded. I know several associates there. Now how many of my men do you need? All of them, Deidara said as he looked around and surveyed the scum. All of my men? What do you need them for? We need them to find two large creatures, one in the form of a turtle and a fox. Well, for the use of all my men, plus contacting the Yakuza, this is going to be rather expensive. I have to ask what's in it for me? Sito requested in his business state of mind. He was intrigued but not thrilled by the claim, so he wanted to see if it was profitable enough for his tastes. Deidara, who had been frowning ever since they had walked in, suddenly smirked. Well, that's a fair question. He then opened up his coat, revealing dozens upon dozens of clay bombs that were attached to his body. Suddenly the bombs jumped off him, looking like doves, and zoomed across the room past the people and latching onto tables, windows, and walls. Let's discuss it, he said as he snapped his fingers, and suddenly the bombs began to glow. Everyone in the bar knew what that meant, and they all started running towards the door, overturning tables and pushing each other aside trying to get there first. But moving faster than they could see, Toby got there first and stood in front of the door, his arms crossed and shaking his head. Haven't you ever read the evacuation rules? You're supposed to move in a calm, orderly fashion. No one tried moving forward anymore. Their fear for the masked man from Akatsuki outweighed their fear for the impending explosion. Meanwhile, back at the end of the bar, Sito was sweating frantically, as he sat in his chair with his eyes wide. You can't kill me. Who'd do what you're asking if you did? Now I certainly see your point, but who said you're the only resource we have access to? So what could we possibly do for you to buy your cooperation? Deidara said as he cocked his head to the side as if truly wondering. The clay bombs began glowing more brightly and rapidly. Stop the bombs! Stop the bombs! Sito said, his voice shaky and afraid. Oh, well, that's one thing, but is it enough? We don't want to feel like we're cheating you. The Xiwa added. The bombs were now start to shake, and everyone started yelling. Some started looking ready to try and rush Toby despite the risk. We'll do it, just please shut the bombs off, Sito said, looking like he was about to piss himself. Deidara smirked and snapped his fingers. The bombs glowed brightly and then fell to the floor, harmless. All right, you have twisted my arm, deal. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. And Sito leaned back in his chair, taking in small, shallow breaths. Now then, are there any more questions? Deidara asked. Yeah, how are we supposed to single fox and turtle? Sito asked. Simple, they're both as big as a mountain. The turtle has 3 tails and the fox has 9. Find out where both of them are, contact us, and we shall do the rest. Sito looked unsettled, but for a different reason now. With all due respect, sir, if they're that big, why couldn't someone of your skills easily find them yourself? My skills are needed elsewhere, so I need someone else to do the search instead. Someone more subtle than I. Oh, and all you need to do is locate and then inform us. Better if you don't actually draw their attention, lest you want to die by then. I'll get on it. But the Yakuza are going to be harder to motivate than me, Sito stated. Deidara just smirked. I'll be back in 4 days to see just how much motivating they need then. Now go back to your games. See ya. He turned to leave. You sure showed him, Toby told his partner. Shut up. Although the sun shone brightly and not a cloud was in the sky, it was a dark day in Konoha. For an ancient public display was taking place, an execution. Now, Konoha had not had a formal execution in nearly 30 years, and the execution grounds had remained empty and unused for those 3 decades. Weeds grew around the gallows, the raised platform with a post overhead for nooses, but a careful inspection the other day proved it was still in working condition. It remained primarily as an intimidation factor, to remind everyone in the village, shinobi or not, just how unforgiving the lawmakers could be if messed with. Now Tsunade had come to the grounds, intending to put them back to their original use, executing the defilers of Konoha's laws and reminding the rest why they shouldn't do the same. The criminals she intended to have punished today were the ones who had openly celebrated the Kyuubi's Naruto's death. They had been under the impression that because Naruto was dead, the law the third Hokage had passed regarding him had died with him. Tsunade intended to show them the error of their judgment and assumption. There were 12 to be executed, each one of them shackled with a masked ambu standing behind them, not that they could escape. Most of them were simple low-life scum, the shameful dregs of the village, but a few of them had seemingly been good respected members of the community. One of them was Harino Aina, Sakura's mother, and her face revealed to all she was scared and frightened. She wasn't the only one, as it should be. You can't do this, you crazy bitch! Aina cried as she struggled with her chains, despite knowing she could not break them. Other prisoners shouted similar things, mainly calling Tsunade a bitch or whore and then adding pointless threats before demanding their immediate release. The woman they were making derogatory names at just watched unflinchingly. Only the adults of the village had been ordered to attend the execution. Some members of the younger generations were gathered up at the academy. Tsunade would not have them see this. She would not allow children to witness such a practice which she herself, as a doctor, condemned, but in this case found it necessary. The Hokage's ever-faithful assistant Shizen stood behind her, although her face was lowered, as was Tantan's, who gave a sad oink. They both pitied the people about to face judgment here, not because they were about to be punished, but for the fact that they had brought this on themselves and what they did in doing so. A part of Shizen was glad that Naruto's slanderers would get their comeuppance, but her moral side would allow her to take no actual pleasure in this. Tsunade then nodded to the Umbu, who began pushing the condemned up the stairs that lead to gallows ropes. Everyone in the crowd watched with wide eyes as the masked ninjas looped the ropes tightly around their necks. It was just like something you'd see in a movie. The adults who had been brought to witness the event watched on. Some of them were family members of those who were about to be executed and attempted to push their way forward, trying to see if they could stop the inevitable, only to be held back by other members of the Umbu. A good portion of the whole unit had been mobilized for this event, since Tsunade was extremely certain there would be interference. Tsunade looked ready to give the order when a loud voice halted her. Stop! Everyone turned to where the voice had originated, and those standing on the gallows let out a sigh of relief when they saw the 4 leading members of the village council walk onto the execution grounds. Hyuga Hayashi, head of the Hyuga clan, who ever since the fall of the Uchiha had taken over the role of providing a good deal of the village's internal security. Shimura Danzo, a village elder who had once been on the run for Hokage, he had sought to turn Naruto into a weapon, loyal only to the village, or more accurately himself. Yudatane Koharu, an assertive old woman who had been one of the people who demanded the death of Naruto once his Jinchuriki status was known. And lastly Mitokado Hamura, one of the third Hokage's best friends, and one of the few surviving ninjas who had actually aided in restraining the Kyuubi. All of them had cold looks on their faces as they walked across the grounds towards Tsunade, who stared back at them with an equally cold face. What are you doing here? She demanded. We are here to end your madness, Hayashi said, looking like he was ready to activate his Byakugan. What gives you the right to execute these people without permission of the council? Kohara asked, her voice, although old, still had a powerful tone to it. What right? I have my right as the Hokage of Konoha, as the granddaughter of the first Hokage, as the student of the third Hokage, and one of the 3 Sannin. What's more, I have the right under the law which these people broke. Said law gives the Hokage sole say in punishment to those that break it. Tsunade said back to them, not bothering to hide her tone of anger or disgust towards the prisoners. The law you speak of died along with Uzumaki Naruto and the beast within him. These people are not guilty of committing any crime, Hamura said blankly. Umbu, release those prisoners, Danzo said, believing that they would obey him. However, to his surprise, not one of them moved. Tsunade allowed herself a small smirk. The Umbu are answerable only to the Hokage, not the elders, she said, as all Umbu should be. Have you lost all respect for this council and the village it serves? Hayashi asked. Never in all of his years on the council had he been treated like this. It may be that I respect this village more than I respect any one of you. I am executing these people for their evil thoughts and evil deeds. Let them go to hell. Tsunade then turned to the Umbu and gave a gesture with her hand. Everyone watched in shock and horror as the condemned were not dropped down but were instead raised upwards by the ropes. This was not designed to work like a normal hanging would. The criminal would be raised by a wench to make their deaths slow and painful to give them some semblance of the pain they caused, and it would expose any co-conspirators in the area if someone made an effort to help them escape before they died. If that happened, the Umbu would catch another guilty party that may have gone unknown otherwise, and if the suffering criminal got loose, they'd land on a pressure-sensitive trapdoor that would give and let them fall to their deaths on a bed of saban. They all watched as the prisoners kicked their feet out and gripped the ropes around their necks, trying to loosen it but could not. After a few more minutes their faces turned blue and their thrashing became mere twitching, and a moment later even that ended. Tsunade then turned away from the council and addressed the villagers, all of whom backed away a bit as she stared at them. She spoke loud enough for all to hear. And let this be a message to all of you. I will not have any more of this madness, no more celebrating the death of a Konoha ninja, especially one who fought so hard to protect this village and all of its ungrateful inhabitants. Should I find out that anyone has dared to even utter a word against Uzumaki Naruto again. She paused there and raised her left fist high above her head and then brought it crashing down hard into the stone ground. There was a loud crash as the spot where she hit had lowered down into a small crater, however it was large enough for everyone to see. Tsunade then spoke again. I will show you my true anger. She spat, taking notice of the fear that were in the eyes of all the villagers. Now go home, go back to your families, she said as she turned her attention back to the council. Now was there anything else you wished to discuss with me? She asked them as she balled her left hand into a fist again. None of the four said a single word, they simply stared at her for a moment with raw disgust, then turned around and began walking away, rather quickly. Tsunade knew this would not be the end of the matter though. One thing Tsunade didn't know was that someone from the younger generation had found a way to watch, and soon the rest would know what happened. Back at the academy, what remained of the rookies passed the time by hanging out together in the hallway of the academy. They had been asked by Tsunade to assist the Chunin instructors for the day by telling the students about their experiences and offering tips for being successful on the job. Now they were on break as the students were working on their physical training outside. Since they were all gathered, Tenten decided to bring up something that had been on her mind since the last time they were together. Care to better explain yourself, Kiba? She sternly asked the Inuzuka. All eyes were on him, except for Sakura, whose were focused on the floor, and he knew full well what they wanted to hear him tell them all. Look guys, I want to go on record as saying I agree with all of you that Naruto wasn't the fox. He never even smelled like a fox, though he could have used a shower more often. But he paused to make sure he was going to say this right. The reason I said what I said was that I was sure you all were thinking it, but didn't dare say because you didn't want to look disrespectful. Everyone, sans the downtrodden Sakura, looked like they had just been stabbed by his words. Tenten grabbed Kiba by the collar of his jacket and looked him in the eyes angrily. You jerk! You think we don't care that Naruto is dead? Kiba pushed her away forcefully and stood to look at all the rookies. Do any of you really care about Naruto? Who here knew where he lived? Who here gave him the time of day? Who here even thought of him when he wasn't right in front of you or when someone else didn't mention him? He paused so someone could answer, half expecting Sakura to answer at least once since he was his teammate if not other reason. Tenten surprised him by answering first. I did to all three. Naruto was like a brother to me. He was the reason I became a weapon expert in the first place. That caught everyone's attention, especially Niji and Lee since she never even told them that story. Years ago, when we were both still orphans, there was a bad day when some people got a hold of some kunais and shurikens and threw at him like he was a dartboard. He dodged but couldn't attack back. Apparently the stupid authorities claimed he couldn't legally use self-defense. Just saying those words made her punch the wall in anger and shed some angry tears, and no one could blame her. So I grabbed the dropped ones that missed him and threw them back. My aim not so good back then. She stopped and took deep breaths to calm herself down, but glared hard at Kiba. So don't you dare tell me that Naruto's death means nothing to me. How can you say something like that in the first place? Simple. Who here besides you really knew anything about Naruto? Kiba asked, and no one answered. You claim he's a friend now, but when he was alive no one cared he lived. Me, Shikamaru, and Chuji didn't even know him that well and we were with him the most, but even we didn't see him outside school that much if at all. And since no one here is trying to prove me wrong, I must be right. I don't even believe your sadness here is really for Naruto. You guys aren't sad he's gone, you're just asking yourself what if it had been me, or what if I'm next, and that's why you're gloomy. Niji stepped forward but showed no signs of impending attack. You've got a lot of nerve saying that about our character Inuzuka-san. Kiba just shrugged. Nerve or not, can any of you say I'm wrong? From what I see, only Tenten and Hinata-chan are truly mourning Naruto. Just where is Hinata, by the way? Ino asked Niji. Hayashi-sama won't tell me, but Hokage-sama says she's on an important mission with Jiraiya-sama and won't be back for a long time. You don't think she's looking for him, do you? Ino asked. That does sound like something she'd do, Chuji claimed. I hope not, Kiba commented, regaining everyone's attention. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that if that's what she's doing, then no matter what she finds, she probably won't come back here. Why? Lee asked. Look, we all know about how Hinata-chan feels for Naruto, right? He asked, and they all nodded. I know Hinata-chan well enough to know that if she does find Naruto, no matter how she finds him, dead or alive, then she will join him. Realization dawned on everyone. Yes, if she finds him dead, she'll kill herself. If she finds him alive, she'll stay with him wherever he is. And trust me, with how Konoha's acting now, if I was Naruto, not even the promise of becoming Hokage and all the ramen I could eat could make me come back here. I concur with my teammate. Shino spoke up. I even suspect that Hinata saw this coming and got out before the worst started. I think it's safe to say that if we ever see her again, it will either be with Naruto elsewhere or in a body bag. That certainly got everyone thinking. Ino sat down next to Sakura, who had looked like she had the weight of the world on her shoulders the entire time. Sakura, you okay? The blonde asked as she lightly shook the pink-head shoulder. Sakura finally looked up, her eyes teary but not red. Sorry, did you say something, Ino? What's wrong? Ino asked. Sakura wiped her eyes. Nothing, I just had something on my mind. She hesitated to say anything, but she felt she needed to get this off her chest. I saw my mom last night, and it wasn't pleasant. Flashback. Here she is, Sakura. See if maybe you can talk some sense into her. Tsunade told her apprentice as the two stood before a cell door. If I get her to apologize and swear to never speak ill of Naruto again, you will not execute her? She will be placed under permanent house arrest, the Sannin said as she unlocked it and allowed Sakura to enter before closing it. Sakura saw her mother sitting on a bench in the cell, looking hopefully. Oh, good, you're here. Did you ask the Hokage to let me go? Sakura shook her head. No, I didn't ask her anything. Aina stood up. Why not? Because I didn't know you have been arrested until just a few minutes ago. Aina grimaced. Well, I did nothing wrong. Use your connections to get me out of here now. Sakura shook her head again. What? How can you stand there and let your mother be in prison? Because you did do something wrong, Mom. Sakura answered. I know what law you broke, and it never was repealed, so it's still in effect. Tsunade Shisho said if you apologize they would place you under permanent house arrest, but I'm not going to ask her to let you go scot-free. Now Aina looked mad, this time at her daughter rather than other people in general. I'm your mother. How can you be so uncaring to me? Remember how you would send me to my room or give me a spanking when I was a little kid so I'd learn to follow the rules and be a better person? Sakura calmly asked. Same principle here. You need a timeout, Mom. I didn't do anything wrong. Yes, you did, Sakura shouted back. You broke a law punishable by death for no more reason than you just assumed it was invalid. And you shamelessly celebrated the death of a Konoha nin. Heck, even the Hyugas didn't celebrate the Uchiha massacre, and those clans hated each other. Aina didn't look convinced of her wrongdoing. If you're talking about the Kyuubi, there's no crime in that. Sakura growled in the back of her throat. Tell me this, mother, just whose death were you really celebrating? The Kyuubi's or Naruto? The two are and always have been the same. No, they weren't. Yes, they are, Aina countered. How could they be? Sakura asked. Tell me, Mom, what proof do you have that Naruto was really a mountain-sized monster that wanted us all dead? I'm your mother. I don't have to justify my decisions to you. Sakura looked disgusted. You can't, can you? You don't have proof, you don't have a motive, you don't even have an excuse. You hate him because every time you saw him all you could see is a monster, and you've convinced yourself that's all there was to see in him, haven't you? You haven't even tried to see his humanity, have you? What humanity? That abomination. He has a name, and he was my teammate, mother, Sakura interjected. Aina scoffed. Whatever. That scum never had the right to exist, and as far as I'm concerned he couldn't have died soon enough. I am glad that thing you call Uzumaki Naruto is dead, and the only thing I don't like is that I wasn't the one to get it done. Sakura looked like she wanted to throw up. Her mother continued on about how respected she'd be for being the one who did away with the QB container if she had killed him, and how upset she was that Sakura never hit him hard enough, but the medic Nin tuned it out, unwilling to hear another word. She headed for the cell door. Where are you going? Aina asked, sounding pleading yet hopeful. Sakura turned to look at her mother. I need some time to myself right now. Goodbye, mother. She then walked out and Tsunade locked the door. Tsunade Shisho, I'm afraid I'm too emotionally compromised right now to offer any recommendation as to what to do about her. So I'll trust your judgment. Can I go home now? Tsunade nodded. Yeah, go get some rest. And be at the academy at 9 in the morning. End flashback. Sakura sighed when she finished her recount. I didn't see her home last night, so I'm certain Hokage-sama is going to punish her in some way. But after I got home, I realized Mom may be executed. That may have been the last time I ever see her. Ino placed her arm around her friend's shoulders. Sakura continued on, unaware that the rest of the rookies had been listening in. I feel like I gave the go-ahead for her death sentence. I wanted to ask Hokage-sama this morning about it, but I couldn't get a hold of her, just told to come here by Shizen-senpai. I'm sorry, was all Ino could say. Sakura didn't relax. The last time I saw Sasuke, he was leaving this village and I feel like all I did that night was encourage him to. The last time I saw Naruto, after we got rid of the paper bomb trap, he asked me out to celebrate, and she sniffled sadly before continuing. I said he was going to get himself killed someday if he kept being stupid. More tears flowed again. Go ahead and say what you must. Nothing anyone could say could make me feel worse than I already do. I doubt that, Shino stated, drawing her eyes slowly to him. One of my beetles returned to me not too long ago. It appears there has been an execution within the last 5 minutes. I regard informing you, Sakura, that your mother was one of the sufferers. Sakura's head dropped and the real waterworks started. She didn't say anything, but anyone could guess what was going through her mind right then.